Story 1.
I saved every spare dollar for 7 years to take the trip of a lifetime, and my family thinks that money belongs to someone who already secretly burned through thousands she never paid back. When I finally said no, I thought the worst was over until I got a call from halfway across the world that she'd broken into my house, trashed everything I owned, and was sitting in my living room refusing to leave. The cops found something else in her car that night that made everything 10 times worse. So let me break this down for you. I'm a 25-year-old guy. My dad is Henrik, my mom is Selim, and my younger brother Jonas is 19. My uncle Dawid is 39. And then there's my Aunt Messeret. She's 32, and she is the reason I'm telling you this story right now. Let me take you back to where this all started. When I was 18, I made a promise to myself. I just graduated high school, working part-time in a warehouse, and I saw this documentary about the Swiss Alps. Something about the way the light hit those mountains made my chest ache. I told myself times, one day, I'm going to stand there. Asterisk. Not on a screen, not in a photo. In person, breathing that air. So I started saving. Every spare dollar. Every overtime shift. Every birthday check that could have gone to sneakers or nights out. I opened a separate account and I didn't touch it. Not when my car broke down. Not when my buddies went to Vegas. Not when inflation made everything feel pointless. 7 years. 7 years of discipline that most people my age don't have, and honestly, I barely had it either. But I held on. By 25, I'd done something else too. I'd finished my master's degree, fully funded through assistantships and scholarships I'd clawed my way into, and I'd paid off my house. Yeah, my house. Small, nothing fancy, but mine. The mortgage was gone. I was free in a way that felt almost illegal. Then the project I was working on wrapped up in late May instead of July like we thought it would, and suddenly I had this window. I started planning the vacation. Europe, Switzerland, Germany, France, England. 6 weeks. The trip I'd been building towards since I was a teenager, staring at mountains on a laptop screen. That's when Messeret called my mom. She needed money for her semester. She'd enrolled in some program. I honestly stopped keeping track of which one, and she was short. Not a little short. She needed thousands. And because I'd made the mistake of mentioning my trip in the family WhatsApp group because I'd been times excited times for the first time in years and wanted to share that with people I loved, everyone suddenly knew I had cash. The first call came from Mom. "She's your aunt," Salam said, her voice carrying that specific frequency she uses when she's already decided you're wrong. "She's family. You can take your trip next year. I've been planning this for 7 years, Mom. And she's been trying to get her degree for..." That's kind of the point, isn't it? Silence. The disappointed kind. Then the messages started. Cousins I hadn't heard from in months. An uncle in Dallas who still owed my dad money from 2019. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone thought I should help. Nobody offered a single dollar themselves. One message from a cousin I'll never forget times, "You're really going to go play tourist in Europe while your own blood can't afford school? That's cold, bro." Asterisk. I typed back, "Times, how much did you send her?" Asterisk. He never replied. My dad Henrik was quiet through all of this. Unusually quiet. He'd just nod when Mom brought it up at dinner, chew his food slowly, and change the subject. I assumed he was staying neutral. I was wrong. It was Dawid who broke the silence. I drove to his place on a Saturday, mostly to vent. Dawid's always been the uncle I could talk to, straightforward, no games. But when I walked in and started explaining the pressure, something shifted in his face. He set his coffee down, rubbed his jaw, looked at the wall like he was doing math on whether to speak. "Sit down," he said. "I am sitting." "Then stay sitting." He leaned forward. "Your dad gave Messeret money 4 years ago. For school. Same story. She was enrolled. She was short. She needed help. He gave her close to $3,000. My stomach dropped. She dropped out after 1 semester. Never paid him back. Not a dollar. Not a word about it. Why didn't he? Because she's his sister. And because I told him not to make it a thing." Dawid's voice got tight. "Because I did the same thing. She came to me before your dad. I gave her $2,000. Same promises. Same result. She dropped out, disappeared for 6 months, came back like nothing happened. I sat there doing the math. $5,000 between them. Gone. Buried. And now she was back at the well, and the bucket she was lowering had times my name on it. Asterisk. Why didn't anyone tell me this? We were protecting her. He said it flat like he'd already judged himself for it. Sibling loyalty. Stupid maybe, but that's what it was. I drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Not from anger, from clarity. The kind that burns. I called Messeret that night. Told her no. She cried. She accused me of not caring about family. I told her I knew about the money. The line went dead. Then I opened the family WhatsApp group and I burned it to the ground. Every person who'd pressured me, I called out by name. Every cousin who shamed me without contributing a cent. Every relative who treated my savings like a communal fund. I told them the truth about the money Messeret had already taken and never returned. I told them if family meant so much, they could pool their own cash. Then I muted the chat, packed my bags, and chose my brother Jonas to watch the house. He could live there free of charge as long as he took care of the place, and I trusted him completely. 2 weeks later, I was standing in Munich, breathing foreign air, finally living the thing I'd spent 7 years building toward. That's when my phone lit up with a WhatsApp call from Jonas, and his voice was shaking. "She's in your house." Jonas's voice was thin. Not scared exactly, more like someone trying to describe something they haven't fully processed yet. I pressed the phone harder against my ear, stepping away from the Marienplatz crowd into a side street where the noise dimmed. "What do you mean she's in my house? I went out to get food." 20 minutes, maybe less? When I came back, Messeret's car was parked next to the house. The frame was cracked, man. She broke it open. My legs did something strange. They locked. I was standing on a cobblestone street in Munich, 6,000 miles from home, and my body was trying to physically root itself to the ground like that would help. When I walked in, she was going through your stuff. The living room was. He stopped, swallowed. "Your TV is gone, like destroyed." She smashed it. The PS5 is in pieces. "Your gaming PC, I think she threw it." "The collection." I didn't ask about the collection. I couldn't. "She didn't know I was living there," Jonas continued. "She thought the house was empty. When she saw me, she just started screaming that you owed her, that you ruined her life, that she had every right to." "Is she still there?" "She won't leave." "She's sitting on your couch telling me she's not going anywhere until she talks to you." "I already called the police." I closed my eyes. Munich disappeared. The street noise, the church bells, the tourists, all of it collapsed into a single point of white-hot focus. 7 years of saving. A house I'd paid off with my own hands. And this woman was sitting in it, surrounded by wreckage, because I told her no. "Don't engage with her," I said. "Stay outside. Wait for the cops." "Already outside." "Good." My voice was steady. "I don't know how. Call Dad." The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. I sat on a bench near the Isar River, refreshing my phone like a heartbeat monitor. Jonas texted updates in fragments. Asterisk, police. Here. Asterisk. Asterisk, she's arguing with them. Asterisk. Asterisk. She's saying she's family and has a right to be here. Asterisk. Asterisk. They're not buying it. Asterisk. Asterisk. They found weed in her car. Asterisk. Asterisk. A lot of weed. Asterisk. Asterisk. They're arresting her. Asterisk. That last message sat on my screen for a long time. I read it maybe 15 times. Each time, it meant something slightly different. Relief? Vindication? Grief? Then just a flat, heavy nothing. Hinnock called me an hour later. His voice was the calmest thing I'd heard all day, which meant he was furious. "She destroyed your television, your PlayStation, your computer. Jonas says she went through your game collection too. Cases everywhere, discs snapped." A pause. "Some of those you can't replace." "I know." The police found illegal marijuana in her vehicle. Not a small amount. She's being charged with breaking and entering, destruction of property, and possession. I pressed my palm against my forehead. She really did all this because I wouldn't give her my money while I'm still outside of the country. She did all this because she's never heard the word no and meant it. The trial happened 3 months later. I was in Paris by then. I'd refused to cut the trip short, and my attorney said a Zoom appearance would be sufficient. So I sat in a rented apartment near Montmartre with my laptop open, watching Messeret on a screen for the second time in my life, where she couldn't hang up on me. Her lawyer tried everything. A manic episode, emotional distress caused by family conflict, cannabis-induced impaired judgment. He actually used the phrase, "cry for help," with a straight face, and I watched the judge's expression flatten into something between boredom and contempt. The prosecution laid out the damage, the broken door frame, the shattered 65-inch TV, the PS5 reduced to plastic shrapnel, the custom gaming PC I built over 2 years and 43 games, some collectors, editions, some out of print, some irreplaceable. Total damages assessed at $8,200. Messeret cried on the stand. Real tears, probably. But the judge had seen the photos, had read Jonas's statement, had reviewed the police report detailing the quantity of weed found in her car, the same car, by the way, that she apparently could afford to own and maintain while claiming she couldn't pay for school. 3 years, and $8 200 inches restitution. Her car was seized. Her possessions were liquidated. I collected every dollar. The family split exactly the way you'd expect. The people close enough to know the full story, Henok Selim Dawit Jonas, closed ranks. Mom had gone quiet long before the trial. She never apologized directly, but she stopped bringing up Meseret entirely, which from Salem was the same thing. The extended family was a different animal. Cousins who hadn't contributed a cent to Meseret's education suddenly had passionate opinions about how I'd put family in jail. The WhatsApp group I'd torched months ago apparently reconstituted without me, and the consensus was that I was cold, selfish, and vindictive. I blocked every hostile number, didn't argue, didn't defend myself, just blocked and moved on. There's a specific freedom in realizing that people who only value you as a resource will never understand you as a person. I'm writing this from a hotel in London. Tomorrow I'm taking the train to Edinburgh. Next week, Switzerland. The Alps. The thing that started all of this when I was 18 years old watching light hit mountains on a screen. My chest doesn't ache anymore. It's just open. And the air wherever I am belongs to me.
Story 2.
I kept my wife's secret life hidden for 7 years, not because she asked me to, but because innocent people would have gotten hurt. She mistook my silence for weakness. That was the last mistake I'll let her make. So here's the short version. I discovered my spouse had been living an entire parallel existence. We're talking years of hidden encounters, secret content, the works. And instead of blowing it all up, I went quiet, engineered my exit. Over 4 months of living together like nothing was wrong, and offered her one deal. Silence for silence. She couldn't take it. Now the only thing standing between her and total exposure is a thread she won't stop pulling. I'm in my early 30s, male. My ex-wife is Vanessa, 32, and the most meticulous liar I've ever shared a bed with. Before her there was Claire, my first ex, who taught me what betrayal felt like at a beginner level. And then there's Mia, who came along later and proved to me that not everyone operates like that. But this story isn't really about any of them. This story is about what happens when you give someone everything they wanted, and the only price was leaving you alone, and they still couldn't do it. Let me back up, because you need to understand what I thought I was walking away from versus what I actually found. Claire was my training ground. Married young, divorced younger. She left for someone she said could provide stability, which was code for a guy who paid for things while she figured out who she wanted to be that week. It stung. It scarred. But it was simple betrayal, the kind you can explain over a beer, and your buddy nods because he's seen it before. Claire taught me that people leave. That was the whole lesson. Vanessa taught me that some people never leave. They just build a second life and let you fund the first one. We met 2 years after Claire. I was cautious. Vanessa was patient. She had this way of making you feel like the only source of gravity in her universe. Everything orbited you. Date nights were sacred. She remembered details about my childhood I'd mentioned once in passing half asleep. She'd text me during work just to say she was thinking about me, not performatively, not with the desperate frequency of someone overcompensating, just enough. Always exactly enough. We married after 18 months, bought a place together, built routines. I thought I'd figured out the formula, find someone who shows up consistently, who doesn't make you guess, who treats your vulnerability like something worth protecting. Vanessa did all of that. For 7 years, she did all of that. The discovery wasn't dramatic. No lipstick on a collar, no suspicious phone buzzing at 2 a.m. It was a browser tab. She'd been using my laptop, hers was updating, and when I opened it later that evening, there it was. A dashboard. Not a dating app. A Times platform asterisk. Subscriber counts, earnings history, message threads going back years. Content I won't describe here, but I'll say this. I was not in any of it, and the timestamps predated our wedding. My hands didn't shake. That's the part that still unsettles me. I sat there at the kitchen island, her laughter floating in from the living room where she was watching some cooking show, and my hands were perfectly still. I clicked through everything with the calm of someone reading a quarterly report. Subscriber messages, revealed names. Names revealed social media profiles. Profiles revealed couples times, married times couples. She'd been meeting for group encounters going back to before our first anniversary. Some of these people had kids. Some of them were in our broader social circle. I closed the laptop. I made us both tea. I brought hers to the couch and sat beside her and watched the rest of that cooking show, and laughed when she laughed, and went to bed at our usual time and lay there in the dark while she fell asleep with her hand on my chest. I did not sleep that night. Or the next 3. Here's what people don't understand about discovery like this. The betrayal isn't the worst part. The worst part is the times recalculation asterisk. Every memory gets audited. Every business trip, every girls' weekend, every Thursday evening yoga class that ran long, all of it feeds back through this new filter, and the math changes on 7 years of your life in about 45 minutes. You don't grieve the person. You grieve the person you thought existed. I made my decision by day 4. I would leave. But I would leave times correctly, asterisk. The house was in both our names, but the mortgage was structured in a way that gave me leverage. I spent 2 weeks with a lawyer before I said a single word to Vanessa. I got my exit architecture in place, sole ownership, transfer, financial separation, the works, and then I told her I knew. Not everything. I told her I'd found the content platform. I left out the names, the couples, the depth. I wanted to see what she'd volunteer. She volunteered tears. Magnificent, shuddering, full-body tears. She grabbed my forearms and her nails, left half moons in my skin, and she said, "It was just money. It didn't mean anything I was going to tell you." When I was times working up to it, asterisk. For 7 years. Silence. Then more crying. Then the pivot I'd been waiting for. I'll stop. I already stopped. I deleted everything. She hadn't. I checked that morning. What followed was 4 months of cohabitation that I can only describe as living inside a performance. Vanessa cycled through every mode: sobbing penitent, angry accuser, seductive reconciler, cold roommate, sobbing penitent again. She'd leave handwritten letters on my pillow. She'd cook my favorite meals and set the table for 2 with candles. She'd corner me in the hallway at midnight, eyes swollen, voice cracking. "You can't just times shut me out, times I'm still your wife." I kept my voice level every single time. I ate the meals, I read the letters, I slept in the guest room, and I worked the plan. The papers were nearly ready. The house transfer was almost finalized. I'd severed myself financially from every joint account, every shared obligation, every thread that tethered me to her. And then, on a Tuesday evening in month 3, Vanessa sat across from me at the kitchen island, the same island where I'd first found everything, and said something that made every muscle in my back go rigid. I told my mother, "You've been having mental health episodes. Just so you know. In case you were thinking about talking to anyone about us." In case you were thinking about talking to anyone about us, she said it while peeling an orange, casual, like she was mentioning a change in the weather. The rind came off in one long spiral, and she separated a segment and ate it, and looked at me with eyes that had absolutely nothing behind them. I understood then, fully cellularly, that I had never known this woman. "Noted," I said. That was the last real conversation we had under the same roof. The final 6 weeks were surgical. I finished the paperwork. I secured sole ownership. I packed while she was at work, not because I was hiding, but because I was done performing proximity. On the day I left, I placed the settlement agreement on the kitchen island with a single post-it note, asterisk, asterisk, silence for silence. This is the only deal. Asterisk, asterisk. The terms were simple. I would never disclose what I'd found. Not the platform, not the names, not the couples with children who'd been part of her parallel life. In return, she would never contact me again. No calls, no texts, no messages through friends, no narrative campaigns. Complete and permanent severance. Vanessa signed it the same day. Her lawyer called mine and said she was relieved and grateful for his discretion. That relief lasted 11 days. The first breach was soft. A mutual friend, Derek, called to check in with a tone so rehearsed I could hear the stage directions. He mentioned how times worried times Vanessa was about my state of mind. He used the phrase dark place twice. He asked if I'd considered talking to someone professional the way you'd suggest it to a man standing on a ledge. Derek: "Did she tell you to call me?" Long pause. "She just cares about you, man." I hung up. I did not call back. The second breach was louder. My sister forwarded me a screenshot. Vanessa had messaged her on Instagram, expressing deep concern about my mental health, referencing episodes that never happened, asking my sister to keep an eye on him. My sister, to her credit, saw through it instantly. But the fact that Vanessa had reached into my times, family times, that she'd touched, that something shifted in my chest. A load-bearing wall developed its first crack. The third, fourth, and fifth breaches blurred together. A coworker mentioned that someone had reached out to HR to express concern about my well-being. A college friend I hadn't spoken to in years texted asking if I was okay. My gym buddy said Vanessa had shown up at his wife's book club, a book club she'd never attended, and spent 20 minutes painting a portrait of a man unraveling. She was building a preemptive defense. If I ever talked, I'd be the unstable ex-husband lashing out. She wasn't grieving. She was times constructing asterisk. Each time I said nothing publicly. Each time I contacted her lawyer with a formal notice of breach. Each time her lawyer assured mine it wouldn't happen again. It always happened again. Month 5, post-separation, I stopped tracking the breaches. Not because they stopped, but because counting them had become its own prison. I was living in a studio apartment across town, rebuilding from the studs, and every time I felt the floor solidify beneath me, another call would come. Another concerned voice, another whisper network she'd fed. The friends went first. I cut every mutual connection. Not with announcements, not with explanations, just silence. Phones unanswered. Invitations declined. I became a ghost in a social circle I'd spent 7 years building because every node in that network was a potential channel back to her. Then family. Her mother, who I genuinely loved, called me crying one night saying Vanessa was devastated and I was being cruel. I listened to the whole thing. I said, "I'm sorry, you're in pain. I hope she finds peace." I never picked up that number again. The loneliness of that period was architectural. It wasn't sadness. It was the experience of standing in a building after every wall has been removed. Wind moving through spaces that used to be rooms. Here's where I am now. I work as we speak out of country 4 months. But I'm coming back after, and we are moving into a house we've bought together and is being built as I type we, being me and Mia, who I met 14 months ago through the most unremarkable introduction imaginable. A friend of a friend. Coffee that turned into dinner that turned into a Tuesday morning where she looked at me across her kitchen and said, "You don't have to perform being okay. You can just be whatever you are right now." I can honestly say I have zero concern about what she's doing back home because I trust her fully, which I didn't think was possible to do again 3 years ago. I'm going to go home in 4 months, see her and my cat, and have an amazing Christmas, hopefully proposing in the new year. Things have moved quickly for us, and I honestly would have never given much thought to my ex. I don't think I realized how much I didn't think about her anymore until I was curating my Facebook about 3 months ago and saw a slew of old pictures of me and her together. I had removed everything about her previously, or so I thought. Turns out she unblocked herself from my account, I still don't know how, and had been viewing my posts, my photos with Mia, my new life. Watching, still orbiting. That's when I found out the Whisper campaign never stopped. It just went underground. New people, new stories. A version of me that exists in her telling volatile, broken, dangerous, walking around in the minds of people I've never met. So here's the calculus. I offered silence for silence. I held my end for 3 years. I protected names, marriages, families with children who don't know what their parents did on alternating Saturdays. I did that not for Vanessa. I did it for times them asterisk, but the deal is broken. She broke it so many times the document is confetti. And the song, every name, every timestamp, every couple who trusted the discretion of a stranger more than they trusted their own vows, that song is composed. It has been for years. I've just never pressed play. Vanessa had everything. Her secret life, her freedom, her narrative. All she had to do was walk away. She couldn't. Now the only question is whether I'm merciful enough to keep a promise that only one of us ever honored. I'm running out of reasons to say yes.
Story 3.
My brother proposed to my fiancée. At a dinner he organized, in front of our entire family, with a ring and a rehearsed speech and everything, and the worst part, he didn't even want her. He dumped her over a year earlier because he got bored. So let me walk you through how a guy who ghosted a woman after 4 weeks of casual dating somehow convinced himself she was running a long-term revenge plot against him and decided the best way to prove it was to get down on one knee, in front of his own mother, and propose to his brother's fiancée. I'm 28 male. My fiancée is Jen, she's 26, and she's the most composed person I've ever met, which matters later. My brother Mark is 26, and his buddy Tyler is the genius who helped him cook up this whole scheme. My dad is Richard, my mom is Diane, and both of them watched this train wreck happen in real time. Let me start with the geography of it, because that's what makes the whole thing possible. I moved back to my hometown in January of last year after spending 4 years in Denver. Job fell through, lease was up, and my parents had a spare room they weren't using. not my proudest chapter. I was 27, sleeping in my childhood bedroom, applying to jobs during the day, and hitting local bars at night just to feel like a functioning adult. Mark and I weren't close. We'd never been close, really, 2 years apart, totally different wiring. He was the kind of guy who cycled through friend groups every 6 months and treated relationships like free trials he'd cancel before the charge hit. We'd barely spoken while I was in Denver. When I moved back, we existed in the same zip code the way satellites orbit the same planet, technically near each other, functionally worlds apart. I met Jen in February at a place called The Lantern. She was there with 2 friends, and I was alone at the bar pretending to watch basketball. She asked if the seat next to me was taken. I said something embarrassingly basic like, "It is now." She laughed anyway. We talked for 3 hours. Not the performative first date kind of talking, the kind where you forget to check your phone, where the bartender has to ask twice if you want another round. She was finishing her master's in social work. She had this way of listening where she'd tilt her head slightly and narrow her eyes like she was running what you said through some internal fact checker before responding. I was gone by the end of that first conversation. Completely irreversibly gone. We dated through the spring. Took it slow. She met my parents in April. Casual, low-key, a Sunday dinner where Diane made pot roast, and Richard asked Jen exactly 3 questions about her career before declaring her good people. My sisters loved her immediately. Mark wasn't there. Mark was never there for family stuff unless it involved a holiday or a free meal. By summer, I knew. You hear people say that and it sounds like a greeting card, but I mean, it's structurally, I knew the way, a load-bearing wall from a decorative one. Jen was the architecture. Everything else was furniture. Then came Christmas. We were at my parents' house, full spread, the whole family packed into the living room after dinner. Someone, I think it was my sister, asked to see photos from a trip Jen and I had taken to the coast. I handed my phone over. It made the rounds. Ended up in Mark's hands. He was scrolling through half interested, and then he stopped. Looked up at Jen. Looked at me. His face did something I'd never seen before, this slow contortion like he was solving a math problem that personally offended him. "Wait," he said. "Your time's that times, Jen." The room went quiet in that specific way. Rooms go quiet when someone's tone shifts from casual to dangerous. Jen's composure held. She looked at him steadily. "We went out a few times last year, yeah." Mark set my phone down on the coffee table like it was contaminated. "A few times. Right?" He turned to me. "You knew about this." I hadn't. Jen and I had talked about exes in the general sense. She'd mentioned a short thing that fizzled, no names, no details, because there were no details worth mentioning. 4 weeks of casual dating that he ended by simply stopping his replies. "I didn't know it was you," I told him. "Does it matter? Does it times matter?" "Times." He stood up. Richard's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "She's my ex, man. You dated for a month. So that makes it cool. You just, moving on my Mark." Richard's voice low and final. "Sit down." He didn't sit down. He looked around the room like he was waiting for someone to validate his outrage. Nobody did. Diane stared at her plate. My sisters exchanged a glance that communicated entire paragraphs. Jen sat perfectly still beside me, her hand finding mine under the table, squeezing once. Mark left. Slammed the front door hard enough to rattle the wreath. I proposed to Jen on her birthday in March. Rooftop of her favorite restaurant, just the 2 of us, no audience. She said yes before I finished the sentence. I called my parents that night. Called my sisters. Didn't call Mark. He found out anyway. Sent me a text that said, "Simply times, you're making a mistake." Asterisk, I didn't respond. Then he went quiet. Weeks of silence. No texts, no showing up at family dinners to make a scene, nothing. Diane mentioned he seemed calmer and suggested maybe he was coming around. I wanted to believe that. I really did. In June, Mark invited the whole family to dinner at his apartment, said he wanted to make amends, start fresh, celebrate properly. Diane practically begged me to go. Richard said it was my call. Jen, steady as ever, said she'd follow my lead. So we went. His apartment was clean, suspiciously clean, like someone had coached him. Candles on the table, actual cloth napkins. Tyler was notably absent, which I took as a good sign at the time. The first 30 minutes were almost normal. Mark asked about the wedding, complimented Jen's dress, poured wine for everyone. Diane was beaming. Richard kept one watchful eye on Mark, but seemed to relax as the evening wore on. Then, between the main course and dessert, Mark stood up, tapped his glass with a fork. "I want to say something," he announced. "I've been thinking a lot about family, about what matters, about big moments and not letting them pass you by." He reached into his jacket pocket, and my stomach dropped through the floor. He pulled out a small velvet box, black, the kind you get at a mall kiosk, not a jeweler. Mark turned to face Jen. Jen, he said, and his voice had that rehearsed quality, that over-enunciated cadence of someone who'd practiced in a mirror. I know this is unconventional, but I've realized that what we had was something I threw away too quickly, and I can't let another man, even my own brother, build a life on a foundation that was always meant to be mine. He dropped to one knee. Diane's wine glass hit the table hard enough to slosh. Richard was already pushing his chair back. My sisters froze in perfect unison like someone had pressed pause on a movie. Will you... Stand up. Jen's voice cut through the room like a scalpel. Not loud, not shaking, surgical. Stand up right now. Mark blinked. The script in his head clearly hadn't included that line reading. He stayed on one knee, box still open, cheap cubic zirconia catching the candlelight. I was already moving. My chair tipped backward and I heard it hit the floor, but the sound was distant, muffled, like hearing something through water. Richard was coming around the table from the other side. I registered him in my peripheral vision, his hand already reaching for Mark's shoulder, but I got there first. I hit him. Open hand initially, then closed a punch that connected with his jaw and sent him sideways off his knee. The ring box skittered across the hardwood. Mark caught himself on the edge of the table, pulled the tablecloth, and a candle rolled into a water glass with a hiss. What is times wrong, times with you, I heard myself say, and my voice didn't sound like mine. Mark straightened up, touched his jaw, and then this is the part I replay most often, he times smiled asterisk. Not a pain smile, not a caught smile. A vindicated one. See, he pointed at Jen. See how she didn't even hesitate. She didn't even times consider times it. Because this was never about me or you. This is about her getting back at me. She's been running a game since day one and you're too stupid to... Mark times enough, asterisk. Richard had him by the arm, now grip white-knuckled. We're leaving. Everyone is leaving. No, Dad, listen. She dated me first, then just times happens. Times to show up with my brother. Tyler saw it from the beginning. She's been... You staged this, I said. The realization landed like a delayed detonation. You cleaned your apartment. You invited everyone. You did all of this to what times? Test times her. He didn't deny it. His jaw was already swelling, and he didn't deny it. Diane was crying. My sisters were pulling Jen toward the door, forming a protective wall around her without anyone needing to coordinate it. Jen's face was completely still, but her hands were trembling. I saw that. I saw it, and something inside me locked permanently into place. We left. Richard drove. Nobody spoke for 11 minutes. I counted. 5 days later, at my apartment. Neutral ground, though, nothing about it felt neutral. Mark sat on my couch like he was waiting at the DMV. Jen sat across from him in the armchair. I stood. Richard and Diane were in the kitchen close enough to hear, far enough to give the illusion of privacy. Just explain it, I said. All of it? Mark leaned back, crossed his arms. And then, with the detached tone of someone recounting a mildly interesting documentary, he explained. He said he had no feelings for Jen. None. He and his friend thought it would be a good idea to test it and see if they were right, so he came up with the idea to propose and see if she dumped me for him. The whole dinner, the candles, the cloth napkins, Tyler's choreography, Mark's execution. Jen asked him to elaborate on why he thought she was hung up on him, and he told her that he heard she was asking about him following the breakup and still hanging out at the places they used to go to, so it was a valid assumption. Then for her to pop up randomly with his brother affirmed his suspicions. Jen told him she'd only asked about him once following the breakup, and she'd been hanging out at those places with friends before they started dating, and she wouldn't avoid them because of a breakup. She also told him she was offended at the idea that she would go as low as to pursue me just to get back at him. He shrugged. Actually shrugged. Like she'd told him the weather forecast. Okay, he said. Maybe I was wrong about that part. But you have to admit, the optics are weird. The times optics times, Jen repeated, and for the first time her composure cracked not into tears, but into a laugh. One short, disbelieving exhale. You proposed to your brother's fiancée in front of your entire family because of times optics. Asterisk. Mark shifted on the couch. Look, I'm sorry if it got out of hand, but I still can't support this wedding. It doesn't sit right with me. I'd been waiting for this part. I'd been composing this sentence for 5 days. You were already uninvited, Mark. I'm not asking for your support. I'm telling you we're done. He looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. Like the concept of a consequence was genuinely novel to him. You're choosing her over your brother. I'm choosing the person who's never made me justify loving her. He left. No slam door this time. Just a quiet click that sounded more final than any explosion. That was 4 months ago. Mark and I haven't spoken. The silence isn't hostile, it's structural. Load-bearing even. My parents call us separately now. Diane still floats the occasional maybe with time suggestion, but her heart isn't in it. Richard told me privately that he's proud of me, and that was enough. My sisters were rocks. Our rocks. They helped Jen pick her dress last month. Jen and I are getting married in October. Small ceremony, people who showed up for us when it was ugly. No empty chairs reserved for people who might come around. Mark got exactly what he always gets. He got bored of Jen, then got bored of ignoring us, then got bored of his own conspiracy theory. Boredom was never his problem, though. I see that now. Boredom was just the word he used for the emptiness that sat where a personality should have been. He couldn't stand that Jen saw through it in 4 weeks and chose something real. Not because it was me specifically, but because it wasn't him. And that distinction will eat him alive longer than any punch I could throw. The wedding invitations went out last week. Tyler's address, notably, was not on the list. Neither was Mark's.
Story 4.
My mother-in-law told me I disgraced her family's genetics by existing. At her husband's birthday party, in front of 40 relatives, while standing in a house I paid for. So here's the situation. My in-laws worship beauty like a religion, and I was their heresy. They lived rent-free in a home I bought, mocked me daily for my appearance, and when I finally asked for basic respect, they chose homelessness over apologizing. Then their golden child daughter dumped them in a care facility, and suddenly the ugly daughter-in-law was the only phone number worth dialing. I'm 31 female and apparently not pretty enough to deserve gratitude. My husband is Lior, 31, the only one in his family who sees people instead of faces. His mother is Vivian, 61, a woman who weaponized beauty her entire life. His father, Gerald, 65, enabled every cruel word. And his sister Nadine, 34, played the devoted daughter right up until devotion got inconvenient. The thing about marrying into the Ashford family is that nobody warns you. The audition never ends. I met Lior at a hospital fundraiser. I was there because I had organized it. He was there because his company had donated imaging equipment. He asked me to dinner that night, and I said yes, because he looked at me like I was already enough. I didn't know then that his family operated on an entirely different metric. Vivienne had been a catalog model in the 80s, not famous regional. Department store circulars, the occasional magazine spread for a mid-tier jewelry brand. But she'd built an identity around it that calcified into doctrine. Beauty was virtue. Beauty was proof of worth. She passed this gospel to Nadine, who inherited her mother's cheekbones and wielded them like credentials, and to Lior, who quietly rejected it and never told anyone why. The first time I met Vivienne, she held my face between her manicured fingers and turned it side to side like she was inspecting fruit at a market. Interesting bone structure, she said, which I later learned was the most generous thing she'd ever say about me. We married small. Vivienne wore black. The house situation started 2 years before Gerald's birthday party. Lior and I had been married for a year when his parents' financial situation collapsed. Gerald's investment portfolio imploded bad bets on speculative real estate, compounded by pride that prevented him from pulling out early. They were about to lose their home. Vivienne called Lior sobbing, and Lior called me. Here's what people don't understand. I didn't help because I was naive. I helped because my own parents taught me that family means showing up even when it costs you. My father had worked 32 years in municipal water management, so my mother could stay home with my disabled brother. Sacrifice wasn't abstract to me. It was Tuesday. I had savings, substantial savings earmarked for my parents' retirement care. I redirected 85% of it toward the EMI on a house in Vivienne and Gerald's neighborhood, a house Lior had been about to sell because he couldn't carry the payments alone. I covered it. We transferred ownership to my name because that was the legal reality of who was paying. And then we moved his parents in, rent-free, no questions asked. For 3 years, I said nothing. Not when Vivienne rearranged the furniture I'd chosen and told guests it was her home. Not when Gerald referred to me as Lior's wife instead of my name at family dinners, as if naming me would make my presence too real. Not when Nadine visited every other Sunday and the three of them would sit in the living room speaking French, a language I don't speak, while I prepared food in the kitchen. I said nothing because I believed grace was cumulative, that eventually the sheer weight of my kindness would crack something open in them. I was wrong. Gerald's 65th birthday. 42 relatives packed into the house. My house and Vivienne had spent 3 weeks planning it like a state dinner. I'd funded the catering. I'd taken 2 days off work to help set up. I was carrying a tray of hors d'oeuvres through the living room when I heard my name. Not my name. Or Vivienne called me when she thought I couldn't hear. That weird-looking girl has disgraced this family's genetics just by existing. Look at her. Look at my son. People ask me if she's his times assistant, asterisk. Laughter. Not all 42 relatives. But enough. I stopped walking. The tray trembled in my hands. Vivian saw me and didn't flinch. She time straightened, asterisk. Oh, good, you heard. Maybe now you'll understand why I keep asking Lior to reconsider. The room went silent. I set the tray down on the nearest table with a steadiness that surprised even me, and I walked out. Not dramatically. Not crying. I just left. I sat in my car for 40 minutes and stared at the steering wheel until my hands stopped shaking. That night, I told Lior I wanted the house back. He didn't hesitate. Not for 1 second. He called a family meeting the following weekend and laid it out, apologize to my wife, or vacate her property. Gerald intervened first. You don't have to be her puppet for that. You married her, and now she is doing her duty. Don't put her on a pedestal. Lior snapped. His voice cracked with something I'd never heard from him. Not anger exactly, but the sound of a man realizing his father had never once seen him clearly. I times respect times her for everything, and you should also respect her because she has let you live in her house for the last 3 years and never said a word. The silence that followed was surgical. They were shocked to know the house was mine. Lior told them the truth, that he'd been about to sell when I saved it, paid for 85% of the EMI, and that he'd transferred ownership to my name because it was the right thing to do. They didn't apologize. They didn't even blink toward remorse. Lior asked them directly. Apologize to her. Vivian's lip curled. A times simp, asterisk. My own son, a simp. It was her duty to help her husband at bad times. That's what wives do. That's not charity, that's obligation. Gerald nodded. Nadine on speakerphone said nothing, which was its own kind of vote. Then leave, Lior said quietly. And they did. Vivienne packed 3 suitcases, Gerald loaded them into Nadine's car, and they drove away from a house they didn't own, toward a daughter whose devotion had an expiration date they couldn't yet read. 2 weeks of silence followed. Then, at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, I woke to the sound of shattering glass. The front window of the living room. A brick wrapped in a page torn from one of Vivian's old modeling composites her face at 23 jaw, tilted eyes full of a confidence that had curdled into cruelty over 40 years. No note. None was needed. Lior found me standing in the hallway in bare feet glass, glittering across the hardwood like scattered teeth. He pulled me back before I stepped forward. Don't move, he said, and his voice was the voice of a man who had just understood something final. The police came. Filed a report. Insufficient evidence, they said, though. The composite page told its own story. 2 nights later, my father, who had been staying with us while we prepared his room, found Gerald standing on the sidewalk at dusk, staring at the house. Not approaching. Just standing. My father, 71 years old with a replaced hip and a heart condition, went outside to ask if he needed something. Gerald told him his daughter had married above her station, and that the house would come back to the Ashfords one way or another. My father came inside and sat down at the kitchen table and didn't speak for an hour. When he finally looked at me, his eyes were wet, and he said, I didn't raise you to be treated like this. That sentence broke something in me that Vivian's public humiliation hadn't, because my father had never once complained. Not when he worked double shifts, not when my brother's care costs consumed every vacation they might have taken. He had absorbed difficulty like soil absorbs rain, quietly, completely. And now, this man who had earned every ounce of peace I was trying to give him was being terrorized on a sidewalk by someone whose mortgage I had paid. I filed for the restraining order the next morning. The renovation took 3 months. I gutted the bathroom on the ground floor and rebuilt it with grab bars, a walk-in shower, a seat. I widened the door frames. I installed a ramp at the side entrance. Every modification was a sentence in a language Vivian would never understand. Times, this is what love looks like when it isn't performed for an audience. Asterisk. My father moved in on a Saturday. He stood in the doorway of his room and touched the wall like he was confirming it was real. This is mine, he asked. This is yours. He unpacked a single framed photo of my mother, gone 4 years now, and set it on the nightstand, and that was enough. That was the whole ceremony. Lior severed contact with his parents formally, not through a dramatic phone call, through a letter handwritten 3 paragraphs long. I didn't read it. He didn't offer, but when he sealed the envelope, his hands were steady and his jaw was set in a way that told me the decision had been made long before the pen touched paper. The boy who had quietly rejected his mother's gospel of beauty had finally said so out loud. A year passed. I learned what happened next, not from Lior, not from Vivienne or Gerald, but from a cousin of Lior's named Mark, who called one evening with the careful tone people use when delivering news they find both terrible and inevitable. Nadine had moved her parents into Cedar Brook Assisted Living. Not gradually, not after a medical event. She'd simply informed them one morning that the arrangement wasn't working. Her boyfriend didn't like the tension, her apartment was too small, their presence was affecting her energy. She drove them to the facility, signed the intake paperwork, and left before lunch. Mark said Gerald had stood in the lobby holding his suitcase looking at the door Nadine had walked through and hadn't moved for 15 minutes. I set the phone down after the call and sat with the information. I expected to feel vindicated. I searched for it, that hot, righteous bloom of times I told you so asterisk. It wasn't there. What I felt instead was a dull, familiar ache. The same ache I'd felt carrying that tray through the living room. The same ache I'd felt sitting in my car for 40 minutes. Not anger. Grief for people who couldn't stop destroying the bridges they stood on. Lior took it harder. He didn't cry. He went for a run at 10 o'clock at night and came back an hour later and stood in the shower until the water went cold. I didn't ask. I just left a towel on the hook in the hallway light on. Mark told me one more thing. Vivienne in the facility had been heard telling another resident that her son had been stolen by an ugly woman who tricked him and brought him to the streets, that the house had been taken from them, that they were victims of ingratitude. She was still performing, still curating the narrative. Even in a room she didn't choose surrounded by bodies that time, was softening and folding and diminishing the very process she'd spent a lifetime treating as moral failure she could not stop. Gerald, Mark said, mostly sat by the window. I asked Mark if they'd ever mentioned apologizing. He went quiet long enough that I knew the answer. No, he said, not once. I thanked him and hung up. That night I checked on my father. He was asleep in his accessible room in the house I'd paid for under a roof that nobody would take from him. My mother's photo watched from the nightstand. The grab bars gleamed faintly in the hallway light. I closed his door gently and stood there for a moment, my hand still on the knob. The Ashfords had worshipped beauty like it was a savings account, something that would compound and protect them. But beauty doesn't compound. It spends. And when it's gone, what's left is only what you built with your hands and your choices and your willingness to love people who couldn't love you back. I had built this. They had built Cedarbrook. And the ugliest thing in the whole story was that they would never ever see it.
Story 5.
The one responsible thing my wife did after cheating on me became the exact thing that ended our marriage. She got an STD test to protect me, and that single act of conscience was the receipt I never asked for but couldn't unsee. So here's what happened. My wife went to Vegas for a friend's bachelorette week, came back a different person, and I found a hospital bill for an STD screening hidden in her purse. She confessed everything. And I made her believe that confessing to our families would save us, but what she didn't know was that I already had divorce papers in my back pocket. The confession wasn't reconciliation. It was sentencing. I'm 37 male. My wife is Dove, also 37, 16 years together, gone. Priya is the bride whose bachelorette party started all of this. Arjun is my divorce lawyer, an old school junior. And Neil is my best friend who let me crash at his place, recently divorced himself, so he knew the drill. Dove and I met when we were 21. College sweethearts, the kind people point to at weddings and say, times see it does happen, asterisk. 16 years. A son. A house with a garden she designed herself, every plant chosen because it meant something. Jasmine for devotion. Lavender for calm. I used to joke that our backyard was a love letter I couldn't read. I need you to understand that before I tell you what she did. The Vegas trip was Priya's idea. Priya, who I'd met exactly twice, and both times left the conversation feeling like I'd been assessed and dismissed. She was Dove's school friend, the kind of friend who resurfaces every few years with an energy that rearranges the furniture in your wife's personality. When Dove told me it was a full week in Vegas for Priya's bachelorette, I raised an eyebrow. 1 week seemed excessive. Dove laughed and said Priya doesn't do anything small. I said fine. I trusted her. That's not a figure of speech. I trusted Dove the way you trust the ground beneath your feet. You don't think about it. You just walk. She flew out on a Saturday. The first 2 days, normal texts. Photos of the group at dinner at the pool, matching robes. Day 3, the texts got shorter. Day 4, she called me at midnight, voice thick, and said she missed me. Something in the way she said it made my chest tighten, but I told myself it was wine and distance. Day 5, almost nothing. Day 6, a single heart emoji at 11 p.m. Day 7, she came home. I picked her up at the airport. She hugged me like she was trying to climb inside my ribcage, and then she pulled away too fast. In the car, she stared out the window. I asked about the trip. She said it was fun. I asked about Priya. She said Priya was happy. I asked if something was wrong. She said she was just tired. That night, I reached for her in bed. She flinched. Actually flinched. Her shoulder jerked away from my hand like I'd touched a burn. She apologized immediately, said her back was sore from the flight. I let it go. 3 days passed. She moved through the house like a ghost, wearing my wife's clothes. Cooked dinner but didn't eat. Played with our son, but her laughter had a half-second delay, like she was translating from a language she'd forgotten. She showered twice a day, long showers, door locked, which she'd never done. And she wouldn't look at me. Not really. Her eyes would land somewhere near my face and slide off like I was too bright to stare at directly. On the 4th day, I found it. I wasn't snooping. I want that on the record. She'd asked me to grab her wallet from her purse because the delivery guy was at the door. I opened the bag, moved aside, a makeup pouch, and there it was. A folded hospital bill from a clinic 15 minutes from our house. STD panel. Comprehensive. Booked. The day after she landed. My hands went still. The delivery guy rang the bell again. I stood in our hallway holding that piece of paper, and the house went completely silent inside my skull, like someone had pulled a plug. I paid for the food. I put the bill back exactly where I found it. I ate dinner across from her and tasted nothing. That night, I lay beside her and stared at the ceiling for 6 hours straight. The next morning, I started looking. Her phone, nothing. She'd wiped it clean, which was itself a confession. Her Instagram DMs, nothing. Her call log, nothing except a 40-minute call to Priya the night she came back. I checked our shared credit card. Normal charges, restaurants, a spa, a club. Nothing that screamed infidelity, but the STD test screamed it. One piece of evidence sitting alone in a field of silence louder than 100 texts could have been. I went online. I read forums, threads, stories from men who'd found exactly what I found. The pattern was surgical in its consistency, the distance, the flinching, the excessive showering, the phone wipe. I wasn't special. I wasn't an exception. I was a statistic. By the 5th night, I couldn't carry it anymore. We were at the dinner table. Our son was at my mother's for the evening. Dove was pushing rice around her plate, and I watched her hand tremble just slightly, just enough, and I felt something in me snap clean through. How was your STD test? 4 words. Her fork stopped midair. The color left her face in a wave top to bottom like watching a tide go out. She didn't ask times, "What are you talking about, asterisk?" She didn't deny it. She set the fork down with a precision that told me she'd been rehearsing this moment in her head for days. And then she told me everything. The bachelorette group went to a male strip club. Priya's idea. Things escalated. Private rooms. An intimate massage that Dove swore she tried to stop, but didn't. And then because she told herself the line was already crossed, she didn't stop what came after either. One night, one man. She said his name and I held up my hand because I physically could not hear it. She was sobbing. Shaking. She said Priya had pressured everyone that she'd been drinking, that she hated herself, that getting the test was the first thing she did because she couldn't bear the thought of hurting me that way too. I sat there, very still. And behind the devastation, something cold and architectural was already forming in my mind. The next evening, Arjun, my old school junior, now a divorce lawyer, asked me to meet for a drink. So the last evening, Dove confessed her cheating, and the next evening, I was sitting with my lawyer and discussing my divorce. He asked me to sleep over my decision and see if the emotion subsided, and I decided to give her a chance. I told him that I was mindfully making this decision. I relayed my divorce terms to him, and he assured me of starting the paperwork immediately. I requested him to fast-track the process because I want to get done with it as soon as possible. Anyone who heard me would have assumed I was making an impulsive decision, but I was not. I love Dove, but not more than my self-respect. I told him that I trusted Dove with my life, and if I'm taking this decision, it is definitely severe. I cannot let her get away with the cheating. The papers would be ready in 72 hours. I drove home. Dove was sitting on the couch, eyes swollen, waiting. She asked if I'd left her. I sat down beside her. I took her hand, and I told her there was a way we could survive this, but only if she was brave enough to confess everything in person to both our families. Her eyes searched my face for the trap. She didn't find it. She said yes. I spent the next 3 days being the husband she thought she still had. I cooked for her. I let her fall asleep with her head on my shoulder while we watched television. On the second night, she reached for me in bed, tentative, trembling, her fingers tracing my collarbone like she was asking permission to exist near me, and I let her. I held her afterward while she cried into my chest and whispered times, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," times like a prayer she'd been saving. I stroked her hair and stared at the wall behind her and felt absolutely nothing. That's not true. I felt something. I felt the architectural thing, the cold scaffolding I'd been building since the dinner table lock into its final position. On the third morning, Arjun texted me a single word times, ready, asterisk. I called both sets of parents that afternoon, told them we needed a family sit-down, something important. My mother asked if everything was okay. I said Dove and I had something to share. Dove's mother asked the same question, and Dove, standing beside me gripping the kitchen counter, said yes, everything would be okay, that this was about healing. Healing. She actually used that word. We held it at our house, the garden house. Jasmine and lavender in full bloom outside the windows, the whole backyard, exhaling devotion and calm while I arranged chairs in the living room like a courtroom gallery. My parents arrived first, then hers. Her father shook my hand at the door and said, "Whatever this is, I'm glad you two are facing it together." I smiled at him. I have never hated myself more than in that specific smile. Dove sat in the center of the room. I sat beside her, close supportive, my hand on her knee. The families watched us, with the nervous reverence people reserve for couples announcing pregnancies or diagnoses. Dove looked at me. I nodded. She began. She told them everything. The strip club, the private room, the massage that became something else, the man whose name I still cannot hear. She told them about the drinking, about Priya's pressure, about the moment she decided the line was already crossed, so she might as well keep walking. She told them about the STD test, that she'd gotten it immediately, that she'd wanted to protect me even while destroying me. She told them she was sorry. She told them she loved me. She told them I had given her the chance to earn forgiveness by being honest here, in front of everyone, and that she was taking it because I was the only thing in her life worth being brave for. Her mother was crying. Her father's jaw was set so tight I could see the vein in his temple. My mother had her hand over her mouth. My father stared at the floor. Dove finished. She turned to me, eyes raw, face open, and she looked, "God help me," times relieved, asterisk, like she'd climbed the mountain, like the worst was over. I reached into the bag beside my chair and pulled out the envelope. "These are the divorce papers," I said. Arjun drafted them. "The terms are fair. I'm not asking for the house. I'm not contesting custody. We'll share it equally. I want this settled in 45 days. The room didn't gasp. It didn't erupt. It simply stopped the way a heart stops, one moment of rhythm, and then silence so complete you can hear the blood settling. Dove stared at the envelope, then at me, then at the envelope again. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I watched her eyes track backward through the last 3 days, the cooking, the shoulder, the night in bed, the times, thank you times, and I watched her understand. "You planned this," she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She signed immediately. No argument, no negotiation, no scene. She took the pen from the table, opened to the flagged pages, and signed her name in handwriting so steady it terrified me. Then she set the pen down, stood up, and walked to the bedroom. The door closed with a click. Her parents left without speaking to me. Her father paused at the threshold and looked back, not with anger, but with something worse. Recognition. Like he understood exactly what I'd done and exactly why, and the understanding gave him no comfort at all. My mother touched my arm and said, "Was this necessary?" I said yes. She didn't ask again. The divorce settled in 45 days. Uncontested. Arjun handled everything with the quiet efficiency of a man who'd seen the surgery before and knew which cuts were clean and which ones scarred. Dove and I communicated through lawyers. She never called. Never texted. Never showed up at Neil's apartment where I'd been sleeping on an air mattress surrounded by another man's divorce boxes. The silence from her was so total it had its own weight, its own weather. We passed each other once at the courthouse. She was wearing the blue kurta I'd bought her for our anniversary. I don't know if that was deliberate. I don't know which answer would be worse. She looked at me, times looked not the sliding off gaze from before, and I saw something in her face that I will carry until I die. Not hatred, not grief, comprehension. She understood me completely, finally, and the understanding was the loneliest thing I'd ever seen. I drove home Neil's home and sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes. Here is what I know. I love Dove. I love Dove. Those are not contradictory statements, and they do not change anything. I engineered her humiliation in front of the people she loved most because I needed her to feel publicly and irreversibly the weight of what she'd done. I told myself it was self-respect. Maybe it was. Maybe self-respect and cruelty share a border so thin you can't see it until you've already crossed. My son starts kindergarten in September. He will grow up shuttling between 2 houses, 2 bedrooms, 2 versions of why mommy and daddy don't live together anymore. I will have to build him an answer that doesn't include the word times, revenge times, even though some nights alone on that air mattress, I suspect that's exactly what it was. The jasmine in the garden is still blooming. I drove past the house last week. She hasn't pulled it out. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I want to.
Story 6.
My wife spent over 40 hours crocheting a beautiful handmade shawl for the woman marrying the brother who made her childhood a living hell. The moment that shawl was in their hands, they uninvited her from the wedding. So I walked back into that office and took it right off his desk. My wife Lena was asked by her own mother to make this gift for her older brother George's fiancée Diane. They used Lena for her talent, then discarded her like she was nothing, and when I took the shawl back, the entire family turned on us. But they weren't expecting her brother Michael to pick a side too, and they definitely weren't expecting what happened at that reception. So here's the cast. I'm a guy in my late 30s. My wife is Lena. Her older brother is George. His new wife is Diane. Their mother is Vivian. And then there's Michael, Lena's other brother, and his wife Sarah, the only two people in that family who ever actually saw Lena. To understand what happened, you need to understand what Lena's childhood looked like. Because this wasn't a one-time slight. This was a pattern so deeply grooved into her family's behavior that they didn't even see it as cruelty anymore. They saw it as normal. When George graduated from uni, Lena was left at home. She was 8 years old and left home alone all day. Not with a neighbor, not with a babysitter, just left. The whole family, Vivian, George, grandparents, aunts, uncles, they all went to the ceremony, the dinner, the celebration, and Lena sat in an empty house watching cartoons until it got dark and she got scared enough to lock the front door herself. Christmas was spent mostly in her bedroom because her grandmother didn't want Lena around as her presence would just upset George. I need you to read that again. A child was told her presence times was upsetting. Not her behavior, not something she did. Her existence in her room was treated as a provocation. So she'd sit upstairs with whatever book she could find while the rest of them opened presents and ate together downstairs until she was 14. Then she would sneak out and spend it with me and my family. That's how I met Lena. She was the girl from 2 streets over who showed up at our door on Christmas Day in a coat that was too thin, holding a tin of biscuits she'd made herself, asking my mom if she could watch telly with us. My mom didn't ask questions that first year. She just pulled up a chair. Lena was just left out of everything. Her dad used to work away from home a lot, so he had no idea what was going on. He just assumed Lena liked being on her own, that she was the quiet type, the independent one. That's the story, Vivian told him. And by the time he figured out the truth years later, after a breakdown Lena had at 19, the damage was architectural. It was load-bearing. You couldn't remove it without the whole thing coming down. George was the golden child. George got the attention, the investment, the protection, and Lena got what was left, which was usually nothing. So when Vivian called 3 months ago and asked Lena to crochet a shawl for Diane, George's fiancé, I watched my wife's face do something I've seen 100 times. This flicker. Hope, then suppression of hope, then a careful neutral expression she's perfected over 37 years of practice. Mom wants me to make something for the wedding, she said, and her voice was light in the way that means it isn't. I didn't say what I wanted to say. I said, "Do you want to?" She said yes. Of course she said yes. She picked out yarn herself. Drove to 3 different shops to find the exact shade of ivory that would match Diane's dress. She watched tutorials for a stitch pattern she'd never tried before, something intricate with a scalloped edge that made her hands cramp after 20 minutes. She worked on it every evening for weeks. I'd come downstairs at midnight and find her on the sofa with her reading glasses on, counting stitches under her breath, and I'd bring her tea and sit with her because I didn't know what else to do. 40 hours. That's what she put into it. 40 hours of her life poured into a gift for a woman she'd met twice, marrying a man who once locked her in a garden shed for 4 hours because she touched his PlayStation controller. The plan was simple. George and I work at the same company, different teams, but same building. Lena didn't want to see him, so Vivian arranged for me to hand the shawl to George at work. Fine, I could do that. I could be civil for 90 seconds. That Monday morning, I found George in the break room. I handed him the bag. Inside was the shawl wrapped in tissue paper with a handwritten card from Lena that said, "Times, wishing you both a beautiful day. With love, Lena." Asterisk. George looked in the bag, nodded, and said, "Tell her thanks." Not Times, thank Lena. Asterisk. Not Times, that's really kind of her. Asterisk. Just Times, tell her thanks. Asterisk. Like I was a courier. I went back to my desk. I did my work. I ate lunch. Normal Monday. Then at 1:30, my phone rang. Lena's voice was doing that thing again. Light in the way, that means it isn't. Diane just called. She said they've had to cut the guest list because of space at the venue, so we're not invited anymore. My hand tightened around the phone. She said she's really sorry and she hopes I understand. I could hear Lena breathing. Controlled. Measured. The breathing of someone who has practiced not crying in front of people since she was old enough to understand that her tears made things worse. When did she call? I asked. About 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes. The shawl had been in George's hands for 5 hours. They waited just long enough to make sure they had it, and then they made the call. I sat at my desk and I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Clarity. Cold, absolute clarity. They never wanted Lena at that wedding. They wanted the shawl. They wanted 40 hours of her hands and her heart and her desperate hope that maybe this time would be different, and then they wanted her gone. I told Lena I loved her. I told her I'd be home soon. Then I stood up, walked down the corridor to George's department, and looked at his desk. Empty chair. He'd already left for the day. But sitting right there on the corner of his desk, still in the bag, tissue paper spilling out, was the shawl. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds. A colleague glanced up. I didn't care. I picked up the bag, pulled a sticky note from George's own dispenser, and wrote 4 words times, "You don't deserve this," asterisk. I stuck it to his monitor, walked out of the building, and drove home with my wife's shawl on the passenger seat. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the family group chat had already detonated. The group chat was already 40 messages deep by the time I walked through the front door. Lena was sitting at the kitchen table with her phone face down, both hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. She looked up when I came in and her eyes went straight to the bag in my hand. "You took it back," she said. "Not a question." I took it back. She pressed her lips together. Her chin did that trembling thing she hates, the one she's been fighting since she was small enough to be sent to her room for having feelings. Then she nodded, once stood up and put her arms around me, and I held my wife in our kitchen while her phone buzzed against the table like something alive and furious. I picked it up. She let me. Vivian had written times that shawl was a gift. You don't give something and take it back. That's not how family works. Asterisk. George times Lena needs to grow up. This is embarrassing. Asterisk. Diane times. I can't believe this is happening 2 weeks before our wedding. We tried to be kind about the guest list, and this is what we get. Asterisk. Then Vivian again times. And I don't want the children thinking this behavior is acceptable. Maybe they should stay with us that weekend so they're not around all this negativity. Asterisk. My jaw locked. She was reaching for our kids now, using them as leverage the way she'd always used, proximity as a weapon, granting it, withholding it, dangling it, like something Lena had to earn. I started typing. Asterisk. This is Lena's husband. Lena didn't take the shawl. I did. She doesn't know I'm writing this, and she'd probably tell me to stop, because that's who she is, someone who has spent her entire life being gracious to people who don't deserve it. The shawl took her 40 hours. She drove to 3 shops to match the color. She stayed up until midnight every night for weeks. And the morning I handed it over, you waited 5 hours to uninvite her. You got what you wanted and you threw her away. Again. So yes, I took it back. And no, you're not having our children for the weekend. Or any weekend. Asterisk. I put the phone down. Lena was reading over my shoulder. She didn't stop me. The chat went quiet for 11 minutes. I counted. Then Michael. Asterisk. He's right. Asterisk. 2 words. And then times I've watched this my whole life and I've said nothing and I'm done saying nothing. George, you know exactly what you did. Mom, you know exactly what you've always done. Sarah and I won't be at the wedding. Asterisk. Vivian's response was, instant times. Michael, don't you dare. Asterisk. George, times, are you serious right now? Over a shawl. Asterisk. Michael times. It was never about the shawl, George. You know that. Asterisk. Then Michael went offline. So did we. The wedding was on a Saturday. Michael texted me that morning times, taking the girls to the aquarium. Lena and the kids should come. Asterisk. So that's what we did. The 6 of us, me, Lena, R2, Michael, and Sarah, spent the afternoon watching penguins and eating overpriced chips in a cafe that smelled like chlorine and vinegar. Michael's daughter put a plastic starfish clip in Lena's hair, and Lena wore it for 3 hours. Sarah took a photo of all of us outside the gift shop, everyone mid-laugh, because Michael had just walked into a bollard while trying to read the parking sign. Michael posted it that evening. No caption, just the photo. Time-stamped during the wedding reception. I found out later through Sarah, who heard it from a cousin that George saw at mid-speeches, that he went white, then red, then excused himself from the top table, that Vivian followed him, that there was a scene in the corridor outside the function room that George's new in-laws absolutely witnessed, that Diane's father asked Vivian quite directly what was going on, and Vivian couldn't produce an answer that made sense because the truth times, my daughter wasn't invited to her own brother's wedding because we only needed her for the handmade gift times isn't something you can dress up for strangers. George's reception was ruined. Not by us, by the architecture of 37 years of cruelty finally becoming visible to people who hadn't been trained to look away. The following Monday, I requested a transfer to a different team. My manager didn't ask why. He just looked at me for a moment, said, Probably wise, and approved it that afternoon. He'd seen the sticky note. He'd heard enough. Michael told us later that week that the venue had a capacity of 140. George and Diane had 93 guests. The space issue was a lie so thin you could read through it. I didn't tell Lena that people online were calling her a doormat or saying she needs to grow a spine. Those people clearly haven't had their spirit completely broken by the people who are meant to love them unconditionally. They haven't been 8 years old, left home alone all day while the whole family celebrates without them. They haven't spent Christmas in their bedroom because their grandmother decided their existence was a provocation. Lena apologized to me. That's the part that still sits in my chest like a stone. She apologized for times being upset, asterisk. She thanked me for taking the shawl back. She said, "I'm sorry, this is all so messy." I told her she had nothing to apologize for. I told her she never had. We went no contact with George, Diane, and Vivian. Changed the locks because Vivian has a key. Blocked numbers. The silence has been strange and clean like the air after a storm pulls through. The shawl is still here. Lena soaked it in indigo dye last weekend, turned it from ivory to this deep, rich blue that makes it look like something entirely new. She's planning to wear it to Christmas at Michael and Sarah's. She had previously suggested that I could wear it too to work when George is back. She was laughing when she said it, actually laughing. I'm going to bring up therapy soon. Not yet. The dust is still settling and she's sleeping through the night for the first time in weeks and I don't want to push. But soon. For 37 years, Lena's family treated her like she was optional. Like she was someone who existed in the margins of their lives, useful when she could produce something invisible when she couldn't. She's not invisible anymore. Not to Michael. Not to Sarah. Not to our kids who will never sit in a bedroom alone on Christmas Day wondering what they did wrong. And not to me. Never to me.
Story 7.
23 years. We got married at 17 high school, sweethearts who actually made it. Or so I thought. We built a life, a home, raised 2 kids who were now mostly grown and out of the house. We were supposed to be heading into the good years, the easy years. Instead, I was living with a stranger. It started subtly. Girls' night became a weekly thing, then twice a week. Initially, I was all for it. Go have fun, you deserve it. But then the nights got later. She'd roll in at 2 a.m. smelling of wine and someone else's perfume. Full of stories about Jen's horrible date or Sarah's new promotion. I'd pretend to be asleep listening to her stumble around in the dark, the rhythm of our life suddenly off-key. Then came the nights she didn't come home at all. The first time I panicked. I called her phone a dozen times. Straight to voicemail. I called Jen, who sounded groggy and confused. "Mandy, no, I haven't seen her." We were supposed to get drinks, but she canceled. An hour later, Mandy texted me. Asterisk. "Sorry, babe, phone died. Crashed at Sarah's, didn't want to wake you. See you in the morning, XO asterisk." My gut twisted. Sarah was single, lived in a downtown condo, and collected men like they were Funko Pops. I didn't like her. But I swallowed the knot in my throat. I didn't want to be the jealous, controlling husband. So I texted back a simple, "Okay, love you." This became the new pattern. Late nights with the girls. Last-minute sleepovers at Sarah's. She was a ghost in our house, a ghost in our bed. The distance between us grew until it felt like a physical presence, a cold wall of glass I couldn't break through. The breaking point, the moment my denial finally shattered, came on a Tuesday. A miserable, rainy October Tuesday. Her alarm went off at 3:00 a.m. Not my alarm, hers. I jolted awake, my heart pounding in the pitch-black room. "What's going on?" I mumbled. "Just getting up," she said, her voice oddly bright. She was already out of bed, heading for the bathroom. I propped myself up on my elbows, confused. "Your shift isn't until 8. "I know," she called out over the sound of the shower starting. "Sarah and Jen and I are going for a walk before work. Getting our steps in." I lay back down, staring at the ceiling. A walk. At 3 a.m. The wind was howling outside and a steady, miserable rain was lashing against the window. I could hear it, a constant drumming that said, "Times stay in bed, asterisk." But she was in the bathroom blow-drying her hair. Then I could smell her hairspray, then her perfume. She came back into the bedroom, fully dressed in nice jeans, a sweater, and her good waterproof jacket. Her makeup was done. Full foundation mascara, the works. "You're awfully dressed up for a walk in the rain," I said, keeping my voice flat. She didn't miss a beat. "You know, Sarah. We always grab coffee after. Gotta look presentable." She leaned down, gave me a quick cold peck on the cheek, and grabbed her purse. "Don't wait up." The phrase hung in the air long after the front door clicked shut. Asterisk. Don't wait up. Asterisk. It was 3:30 inches the morning. I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, the gears in my head grinding, trying to make the pieces fit. They wouldn't. The story was absurd. 3 women in their 40s getting up in the middle of the night to go for a walk in a storm dressed for a brunch date? It was a lie. A clumsy, insulting lie. But what was the truth? I must have finally drifted off because I woke up to my own alarm at 6. The house was empty and silent, save for the rain. The space next to me in the bed was cold. I went through the motions: shower, coffee, toast, all while a cold dread solidified in my stomach. I needed to haul some old junk to the dump that day, and my sedan wasn't going to cut it. I needed her truck. Her keys were still on the hook by the door, right where she always left them. I grabbed them, figuring I'd just call and let her know. I could swing by her work and drop them off later. I walked outside into the gray, wet morning and saw my sedan parked in its usual spot. But her big, expensive F-150, her pride and joy, wasn't there. The space where she always parked it was empty. My blood went cold. She'd left before 3:30 a.m. She said she was going for a walk. But she took her truck? I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over her name. My heart was a drum against my ribs. I pressed the call button. It rang twice, then she picked up her voice, breathless and high-pitched. "Hey, everything. Okay," she chirped. "Yeah, fine," I said, my voice like gravel. "Listen, I need to borrow your truck to run to the dump. I'm just going to grab your keys and..." "Oh." The sound was sharp, panicked. "You can't." "I have it." I stared at the empty space in the driveway. The rain dripped from the eaves of the house. "You have it. Where?" "On my walk," she said a little too loud. We drove to the trailhead at the park to start from there." The park. The park was less than a mile from our house. You could walk to the trailhead in 10 minutes. My mind was racing, connecting dots I hadn't wanted to see. "You drove your truck," I said slowly, "to go on a walk?" "In the pouring rain." "Yeah." "It's great, so refreshing," she insisted. I could hear something in the background. Not wind. Not rain. It sounded like a TV. A low murmur of voices from a morning news show. My whole body went numb. I knew. In that single sickening moment, I knew everything. The lie was so clear, so transparent, it was like she wasn't even trying anymore. "Okay," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Okay, Mandy." "Great, I gotta go. The girls are waiting." "Love you," she chirped, and the line went dead. I stood in the driveway, the rain soaking into my hair, my shirt. I looked at her keys in my hand. Then I looked at the empty spot where her truck was supposed to be. She didn't take her keys. She had a second set, a set I didn't know about. I walked back inside the cold dread in my stomach, now a solid block of ice. I sat at the kitchen table, her keys clutched in my fist, and I watched the clock on the stove. 7:05 a.m. She'd be home soon to shower and change for her 8 a.m. shift. She'd walk in thinking I'd bought a ridiculous story, that I was the same clueless, trusting husband I'd always been. But he was gone. He'd died somewhere between the 3 a.m. alarm and the phantom truck. A new man was sitting at this table. A man who had been played for a fool for the last time. The only question left was what I was going to do about it. And as I heard the garage door begin to rumble open, I knew she was about to find out. The garage door whirred shut, and a moment later the door to the kitchen opened. Mandy walked in, shaking rain from her jacket. She was smiling, a practiced bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Morning, babe, you're up early," she said, kicking off her boots. I didn't move from my chair. I just watched her. The keys were in my hand, and I let them clink against the wooden table. Her eyes flickered to the sound, and her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "You left your keys," I said. My voice was flat. Empty. "Oh, silly me," she laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. "Must have grabbed my spare set by mistake." "The spare set I didn't know you had," I said. It wasn't a question. She stopped her jacket halfway off. "What's this about, Luke?" "Let me see your phone, Mandy." Her face hardened. The fake brightness vanished, replaced by a defensive glare. "Why? So you can go through my things like some kind of paranoid freak. Just show me the phone." "No," she snapped. "Not until you show me yours. It's only fair." It was a pathetic attempt at deflection, a classic cheater's gambit. Fine. I unlocked my phone and slid it across the table. "Knock yourself out. You've got the password. Nothing's changed." She stared at it, her bluff called. She didn't pick it up. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape she couldn't find. "Your turn," I said, holding out my hand. Her jaw tightened. Reluctantly, she pulled her phone from her purse and handed it to me. I unlocked it. I knew her password too. I went straight to her texts. The conversation at the top was with Sarah. Below that, Jen? Below that, our daughter. I scrolled and scrolled. Nothing. The entire thread with him, whoever he was, had been wiped. A clean, deliberate deletion. She watched me, a smug little smirk playing on her lips. "Find what you were looking for, detective." I ignored her. I went to her recent calls. There was a number there dialed last night and again this morning. No name attached. I memorized it. Then I set her phone down and picked up my own. I pulled up the browser, logged into our phone provider's website, and navigated to the account usage page. I'd done it an hour ago, but I wanted her to see. I selected her line. I clicked on text message details. A log appeared on the screen, a list of every number she had texted in the last 30 days. I turned the phone around so she could see the screen. I pointed to the number from her recent calls. "Who's this?" She squinted at it. "I don't know. A coworker, probably." "A coworker you texted 926 times this month," I said, my voice dangerously low. "A coworker you were texting at 3:15 this morning while you were supposedly on a walk in the park, a walk you took your truck on." The color drained from her face. She looked from my phone screen to my eyes, and for the first time she looked terrified. She saw the man who had been gone for months. The man she was married to. The man she'd just broken. "Luke, it's not what you think," she stammered. "Then what is it, Mandy?" I demanded, my voice finally cracking with the weight of it all. "Tell me the truth. Just for once, tell me the goddamn truth." She just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. No words came out. The lies had run out. And in her silence, I got my answer. It was a roar that filled the entire house. I stood up, the chair scraped loudly against the floor. "I'm done." I walked past her, up the stairs to our bedroom. I pulled my old duffel bag from the top of the closet and started pulling clothes from my drawers, stuffing them in without folding. T-shirts, jeans, socks. I didn't cry. I didn't feel rage. I felt nothing. A vast, hollow emptiness where 23 years of my life used to be. She followed me into the room. "What are you doing, Luke? Don't do this. We can talk about this." I zipped the bag and slung it over my shoulder. I walked to my nightstand and picked up my wallet and my keys. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a complete stranger. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. And I walked out. The first few days were a blur of cheap motel rooms and rage. But the rage burned itself out, leaving behind a cold, hard clarity. The pain was still there, a physical ache in my chest, but I shoved it into a box. It was fuel now. I called the best divorce lawyer in the city. I sat in his plush office and laid out the whole pathetic story. He listened patiently, then looked at the financial statements I'd brought. "She can't afford that house on her salary," he said, tapping a pen on the mortgage statement. "Or the truck. You've been carrying the load for a decade. You're in a much stronger position than you think." He gave me a script. File first. Demand the house be sold and the equity split. Offer her a fair buyout for her half, but set a firm deadline. No negotiations. No emotional appeals. The pick-me dance, the pathetic pleading of a betrayed spouse begging their partner to choose them. I rejected it completely. When Mandy's texts started flooding in times, "I miss you," I made a terrible mistake. "Please, let's work this out," times, I replied with a single brutal sentence my lawyer had drafted. Asterisk. Please direct all future communication regarding the divorce proceedings to my attorney. Asterisk. I gray-rocked her into oblivion. I blocked her on social media. I communicated only through email and only about the kids. The woman I had loved for more than half my life ceased to exist. In her place was an opponent in a legal negotiation. 2 weeks later, I moved into a small, clean, 2-bedroom apartment. The first night, surrounded by boxes, the silence was deafening. But by the third night, it sounded like peace. I bought a new coffee maker. I bought sheets that weren't part of a matching set she'd picked out. I started to build a life that was just mine. My kids, both in their late teens, handled it better than I expected. They weren't blind. They saw her late nights, her distance. They were angry at her, but they rallied around me. We started having weekly dinners at my new place, ordering pizza and talking more than we had in years. I started saying yes to things. A weekend fishing trip with my brother. A concert with an old college buddy. I even went on a few dates, awkward and strange at first, but it was a reminder that my life wasn't over. It was just different. I started planning a bucket list trip to see the national parks out west, something Mandy had always scoffed at as too rustic. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of genuine excitement for the future. Meanwhile, points began its slow, methodical work. The first domino to fall was the truck. Without my income covering the mortgage and utilities, she couldn't make the $800 monthly payment. I got a text from my son one day, "Time's mom's truck is gone." A tow truck just took it. Asterisk, she'd had to surrender it to the bank. Next was her job. Her affair partner was her direct supervisor. When I filed for divorce, citing adultery, the news spread through their office like wildfire. Their discreet relationship became a public spectacle. An HR investigation was launched. He was fired for violating company policy. 2 weeks later, she was let go for performance-related issues. No one wanted to work with her. The final blow was the house. She fought tooth and nail to keep it. She tried to get a new mortgage, but without a job and with a mountain of debt, no bank would touch her. The court-ordered deadline came and went. A for sale sign went up in the yard of the home where we'd raised our children. I drove by one last time the day before the closing. The lawn was overgrown, the flower beds choked with weeds. It looked sad and abandoned. I felt a pang of something not for her, but for the life that had died there. The ghost of the happy family we once were. But it was just a pang. It passed. I put the car in drive and pulled away without looking back. I had a map spread out on my passenger seat, a route plan through Utah and Arizona. My future was an open road. Hers was a house full of boxes and bad decisions. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt completely, blessedly free.
Story 8. Mark and I had a 5-year plan. It was spreadsheets and automatic transfers and saying no to a lot of fancy dinners. The goal, a wedding. Not just any wedding, but times our times wedding. The one with the 100-year-old oak tree. We'd get married under the string quartet playing movie scores and a ridiculously expensive photographer to capture it all. Every dollar was earned, every detail agonized over. When I finally found my dress, a cascade of lace and tiny hand-sewn pearls, I cried. Not because I was getting married, but because the dream we had sketched out on a napkin 5 years ago was finally tangibly real. My younger sister Stacy took a different approach. She met Kevin, a guy with a charming smile, and not much else, and 6 months later they were at the courthouse. I was her witness. She wore a white sundress from Marshall's. It was efficient. She seemed happy enough, but I always caught a wistful look in her eye whenever I talked about my own wedding plans. It started innocently. We were grabbing coffee, and I was showing her the mock-ups for our floral arrangements. "It's all so beautiful, Laura," she said, tracing the picture of a peony on my laptop screen. "Just magical. We've been saving forever for this magic," I laughed. She sighed, a deep, heavy sound that didn't fit her usual bubbly personality. "I just wish I'd had a moment. You know, one real magical bridal moment. Kevin and I were so rushed. We just wanted to be married, but I missed all this." She gestured vaguely at my screen. I felt a pang of sympathy. You can always do a vow renewal for your 10-year anniversary. We could plan a huge party. Her eyes lit up, but not in the way I expected. "I have a better idea." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "What if I just had my moment at your wedding?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Like a special dance with Kevin." "No," she said, her grin widening. "I mean, what if I walked down the aisle too, in a dress? You get your turn and then I get mine. A sister act wedding." I burst out laughing. A loud snorting laugh that made the guy at the next table look over. "Oh my God, Stace. That's hilarious. For a second there I thought you were serious." Her smile froze. The light in her eyes flickered and went out. "I am serious, Lauren." The laughter died in my throat. I looked at her and saw she wasn't joking. The silence stretched thick and awkward. "Stacy, no. That's not a thing. You can't be a bride at my wedding." "Why not?" she shot back, her voice suddenly sharp. "It's one walk down an aisle. It wouldn't take anything away from you. You'd still be the main bride, obviously. I just want to feel that feeling. You know, everyone looking at me in a beautiful white dress." I was so flabbergasted, I couldn't even form a coherent sentence. I think I just stammered something about it being my and Mark's day before making an excuse about a vendor call and practically running out of the coffee shop. I figured she was having a weird moment. A quarter-life crisis, maybe. I was sure she'd text me later, laughing it off. The text I got an hour later was a picture. It was a screenshot from a bridal website. A simple, elegant A-line gown. The message underneath read times. What do you think of this one for my walk? I think it's simple enough not to upstage you XX*. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a weird moment. This was a plan. I called her immediately. Stacy, what the hell was that text? We are not doing this. Don't be like that. She whined. I'm your sister. I just want one small thing. A 5-minute walk. No, my voice was louder than I intended. The answer is no. It's insane that you're even asking. I hung up my hand shaking. That I thought would be the end of it. I was so wrong. The next day my mom called. Lauren, honey, I spoke to your sister. She's heartbroken. Mom, you can't possibly think her idea is reasonable. Well, she began in that placating tone she uses when she's about to completely invalidate my feelings. It is a little unconventional. But she's your only sister. She made a mistake rushing her own wedding. And she just wants a do-over. You're getting this huge perfect day. Would it really kill you to share a tiny piece of it? A tiny piece. Mom, she wants to walk down the aisle in a wedding dress. I could feel my voice rising. My cheeks getting hot. This isn't sharing. This is hijacking. Don't be a bridezilla, Lauren. Family helps family. She's just asking for a moment. It was like talking to a brick wall. A brick wall that thought I was the selfish one. The conversation ended with her sighing about my lack of compassion and me hanging up before I screamed. Then came the text from Kevin, Stacy's husband. Asterisk. Not cool what you're doing to Stacy. She gave you her blessing to have this big fancy party even though it makes her feel bad about our wedding and you can't even give her one little thing. Some sister you are. Asterisk. My jaw dropped. He was trying to guilt trip me for having the wedding Mark and I had paid for ourselves. For making his wife feel bad because we hadn't settled for a 10-minute ceremony with the justice of the peace. The audacity was staggering. The pressure was constant. Every day brought a new text, a new call, a new guilt trip. Stacy would send me more dress pictures. My mom would call to tell me how Stacy was crying all the time. I started screening their calls. My wedding, this beautiful thing I had been building for years, was starting to feel tainted, coated in a layer of family drama and resentment. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I the selfish one? Was I the a-hole for wanting my own wedding day to be about me and my future husband? The breaking point came on a Friday night. Mark and I had just opened a bottle of wine and were finalizing our seating chart. It was the first moment of peaceful, happy wedding planning I'd had in a week. Then a knock on the door. It was Stacy and Kevin. They had a Tupperware container of cookies and fake smiles plastered on their faces. An ambush. We were in the neighborhood, Stacy chirped, pushing past me into our apartment. They made small talk for a few minutes while my stomach twisted into a knot. Mark, bless his oblivious heart, was just happy to see them. Then Stacy made her move. She turned to Mark, her eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. Mark, I need your help. I asked Lauren for a very small favor for the wedding, and she's treating me like I'm a monster. Mark looked from her to me, confused. A favor? What's up? Stacy took a deep breath, clutching Kevin's hand for dramatic effect. I regret not having a real wedding so much. I asked Lauren if after she has her walk, I could have a turn. Just a quick walk down the aisle in a white dress. so I can have that bridal moment I never got." She looked at him, her expression a perfect blend of hope and pathetic desperation. She thought he would be the easy Mark, the calm, reasonable one who would talk his crazy bridezilla fiancé down. Mark stared at her for a beat. Then he tipped his head back and laughed. A big, booming, genuine laugh, just like I had. A sister act wedding, he chuckled, wiping a tear from his eye. "Stacy, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. You almost had me." Stacy's face crumpled. Kevin's jaw tightened, and he stood up. "It's not a joke, man." Mark's laughter stopped. He looked from Kevin's furious face to Stacy's tear-streaked one and then to me. His smile vanished. "Wait," he said, his voice flat with disbelief. "You're serious?" The atmosphere in the room turned to ice. Stacy let out a sob. "You see," she cried, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You've turned him against me, too. You're both just cruel. All I wanted was one moment, and you're laughing at me." Kevin wrapped his arm around her. "Come on, babe. Let's go. We're not welcome here." He shot me a look of pure venom. "I hope you're happy, Lauren. You got your perfect wedding, and all it cost you was your family." They stormed out, slamming the door behind them. Mark and I were left standing in the silence, the seating chart completely forgotten. He wrapped his arms around me, but I felt numb. They had cornered us in our own home. They had tried to manipulate my fiancé. They had called me cruel and selfish over and over until a tiny part of me almost started to believe it. That was it. I was done being the victim in my own wedding story. I pulled away from Mark, my mind suddenly clear. A cold, hard resolve settled in my chest. This wasn't going to be solved with tearful phone calls or angry texts. This required a final, definitive showdown. I pulled out my phone, my fingers flying across the screen. I created a group chat. Me, Mark, Stacy, and Kevin. Asterisk brunch. Sunday, 11 a.m. My treat times, I type. Asterisk. We are settling this once and for all. Asterisk. I barely slept for 2 days. Mark kept telling me to let it go, that he'd handle it, but he couldn't. This was my family, my sister. This was my mess to clean up. We got to the brunch spot first. I picked a table on the patio tucked into a corner. It was bright and loud, full of people laughing over mimosas. The opposite of how I felt inside. Stacy and Kevin arrived a few minutes later. He had a proprietary arm around her shoulders, guiding her like a prize fighter. She wouldn't meet my eye. They sat, and a waitress immediately appeared. "Can I get you all started with some drinks?" she asked, chipper and oblivious. "Mimosas for us," Kevin said, gesturing between himself and Stacy. "Just water for me," I said. Mark echoed me. I needed a clear head. The moment the waitress left, I put my hands flat on the table. Okay. We're not ordering food until we're done. No more texts, no more surprise visits, no more phone calls to mom. We are finishing this right now. Kevin smirked. Good. So you're finally going to be reasonable and let your sister have her 5 minutes of fame. I ignored him, looking directly at Stacy. Stace, I love you. You're my sister and my best friend. But the answer is no. It will always be no. Her face hardened. Because you're selfish. No, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Because you're asking me to set a match to the single most expensive, important, and personal day of my life so you can play dress up. You are a married woman. You had a wedding. It might not have been this wedding, but it was yours. This one is mine. And Mark's. It's just a walk, she pleaded, her voice cracking. Kevin and I never got to. Stop, Mark cut in, his voice low and firm. It was the first time he'd spoken. Just stop, both of you. This isn't about you not getting a walk, Kevin. This is about you being jealous that we can afford the wedding you couldn't. The shot landed. Kevin's face turned a blotchy red. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? Mark leaned forward. You've been making snide comments about our fancy party for months. You convinced my fiancé's sister that she's a victim because we saved our money. You want to spoil our day because it makes you feel better about your own choices. He's not, Stacy started. But the protest died on her lips. I'm not the one on trial here, I said, pulling our focus back. I am. Apparently, I'm a cruel, selfish bridezilla. My own mother thinks so. My own sister thinks so. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. Since my feelings and Mark's feelings didn't seem to matter, I decided to ask for an outside opinion. I'd spent all of Saturday writing it out. Every detail. The request, the dress photos, Mom's phone calls, Kevin's text, the ambush in our apartment. I posted it on Reddit. I wrote down everything that's happened and posted it anonymously online. I said, my voice steady. I asked thousands of complete strangers a simple question. Am I the asshole for not letting my married sister have a second bridal march at my wedding? Stacy stared at the phone like it was a snake. Kevin scoffed. Oh, please. You probably twisted the whole story. I didn't have to, I said, tapping the screen and turning it towards them. I scrolled, letting them see the title, the post, and then the replies. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Asterisk NTA. Your sister and her husband are unhinged. Asterisk. Asterisk. This is the most narcissistic request I have ever heard. Asterisk. Asterisk, uninvite all of them. Your mom, your sister, her leech of a husband. Set fire to the whole relationship. Asterisk. Asterisk. Your sister needs to get a grip. This is your day. She is already married. Asterisk. I kept scrolling. Comment after comment, a tidal wave of unanimous judgment, all aimed directly at them. I didn't have to say a word. The screen said it all. Stacy's breath hitched. A single tear rolled down her cheek, then another. Kevin grabbed the phone, his eyes scanning frantically, looking for a single comment in their favor. There wasn't one. This is bullshit, he spat, shoving the phone back across the table. A bunch of losers on the internet. But the damage was done. Stacy wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me, her face crumbling into a mask of pure misery. They're right, aren't they? She whispered. The sound was so small I barely heard it over the patio chatter. It's insane. The whole thing. She dropped her face into her hands, her shoulders shaking with huge silent sobs. Stacy, babe, don't listen to them, Kevin said, trying to pull her hands away from her face. No, she shrieked, yanking away from him. Her head snapped up, her eyes wild and red-rimmed, and she pointed a shaking finger at him. This was you. This was all you. Kevin looked stunned. What are you talking about? You couldn't stand it, she sobbed. You couldn't stand that Lauren and Mark had this perfect life, this perfect wedding. Every time she'd show me a picture of the venue or the flowers, you'd whisper in my ear later. Doesn't that make you sad? Don't you wish you had that? She should share it with you. You're her sister. She owes you. The confession hung in the air, ugly and raw. And Mom Stacy turned her glare on me, though the anger was gone, replaced by desperation. She just egged him on. She said I deserved a do-over, and that your wedding was the perfect opportunity. They made me feel so small, Lore. So pathetic for my little courthouse wedding. They made me believe I was entitled to a piece of yours. Kevin stood up so fast, his chair screeched against the stone patio. I was just trying to stand up for my wife. No, I said, standing to meet his gaze. My voice was ice. You were trying to ruin my wedding. You saw her insecurity and you weaponized it to soothe your own fragile ego. You are a poison, Kevin. I pulled my wallet out and threw 2 20s on the table. Get out. He stared at me, then at Stacy, who refused to look at him. With a final disgusted sneer, he turned and stormed away, pushing past the waitress who was cautiously approaching with their mimosas. The moment he was gone, all the fight went out of Stacy. She just sat there weeping into her hands. Mark squeezed my shoulder, then nodded. I'll get the car, he said, leaving us alone. I sat down next to my sister in the chair Kevin had abandoned. I put my arm around her shaking shoulders, and she collapsed against me, crying like she had when we were kids and she'd scraped her knee. I'm so sorry, Laura, she choked out between sobs. I'm so sorry. I ruined everything. Shh. No, you didn't, I whispered, rubbing her back. You just let the wrong people get in your head. We sat like that for a long time, the sounds of brunch fading into the background. Finally, her sobs quieted. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. He's not invited, obviously. I don't even know if I can go home to him. You can stay with us as long as you need, I said without hesitation. A wave of relief washed over her face. I took a deep breath. There was one last thing to do. One last piece to fix. Stace, I said, taking her hands. I still want you at my wedding. More than anyone. She shook her head. I can't. I'd be too ashamed. No, listen to me. I squeezed her hands tight. I don't have Dad to walk me down the aisle. I was going to do it alone. But I don't want to. Her eyes widened, confusion mixing with dawning understanding. I want you to walk with me, I said, my own tears finally starting to fall. Not as a bride, as my sister, my maid of honor, in a gorgeous dress that matches the bridesmaids standing by my side. Will you please walk down the aisle with me, Stacy? Her breath caught in a sob, but this time it was different. It was a sound of release, of grace. She threw her arms around my neck, burying her face in my shoulder. Yes, she whispered. Oh my God, Lore. Yes. In that moment, nestled in the corner of a noisy patio surrounded by the wreckage of a terrible idea we found our way back. The wedding wasn't tainted anymore. If anything, it was stronger. It was a day we had fought for not just financially, but emotionally. And when I pictured myself walking towards that 100-year-old oak tree, I no longer saw myself walking alone. I saw my sister right there by my side. Story 9.
I'm pretty sure my dog Lou is made of 90% Velcro and 10% pure uncut anxiety. When I found him, he was a matted whisper of a thing, all ribs and terrified eyes abandoned in a parking lot. It took 6 months before he'd let me touch him without flinching. 2 years later, he's my shadow, a caramel-colored mutt, so permanently attached to my leg it's a wonder we haven't legally fused. He's sweet. Incredibly so. His biggest crime is loving too hard. If I go to the bathroom, he's a furry doormat waiting outside. If I get up for a glass of water, he's a silent escort. Leaving the apartment, that's his apocalypse. His separation anxiety isn't just whining, it's a full-blown panic attack spiral. So I don't leave him. My life is built around this dog. It sounds like a sacrifice, but it isn't. He saved me as much as I saved him. My brother Mark gets it. His wife Chloe, not so much. They came over for dinner 2 weeks ago. It was the usual chaos. Chloe talks with her entire body, all flailing arms and sharp, sudden movements that make Lou nervous. He tucked himself under the dining table, a safe little cave where he could press against my ankles. Everything was fine until Chloe shot up from her chair. Oh, I almost forgot the wine I brought. She spun around, a whirlwind of floral perfume and kinetic energy, and stepped backward without looking. Right onto Lou's tail. The sound that came out of him was a gut-wrenching yelp of pure pain. It wasn't a growl, not a bark, just a high-pitched scream. He scrambled out from under the table, scrabbling on the hardwood, and bolted behind the sofa, trembling. "Oh my God!" Chloe shrieked, clutching her chest. "Did he try to bite me?" I was already on the floor trying to coax Lou out. "No, Chloe. You stepped on his tail. He's scared." "He was so aggressive," she said, her voice shaky. Mark was already by her side, rubbing her arm. "He just lunged." "He didn't lunge," I said, my voice tight. I finally got a hand on Lou's shivering body. "He ran away. You heard him." Chloe didn't seem to hear me. She just kept staring at the space where Lou had been, her eyes wide. The mood for the rest of the night was shot. She treated the corner of the sofa like it was a live bomb, and Lou didn't come out until long after they left. I didn't think much of it after that. Chloe has a flair for the dramatic. But then Mark called yesterday. "Hey sis, so you got the invite right." His voice was buzzing with excitement. His 40th was a huge deal, and they were planning a massive backyard barbecue. All our friends, all our family, the whole 9 yards. Yep, just RSVP'd online. I'm so excited. I even found that ridiculously expensive whiskey you love. Awesome, can't wait. Hey, so, one thing. The energy in his voice dipped. About the party. Chloe, well, she'd really prefer it if you didn't bring Lou. I froze, phone pressed to my ear. What? Why you guys love Lou? I know I do. But after what happened the other night, he trailed off. Mark, she stepped on him. He cried and hid. He didn't do anything wrong. I could hear the defensiveness creeping into my tone, and I hated it. Look, I know, you know that. But she's just spooked. She says he's too aggressive and unpredictable to have around all those people and her friends' kids. Aggressive. The word hit me like a slap. Lou, who was frightened of falling leaves and once got cornered by a particularly brave squirrel. Aggressive. That's insane, and you know it, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Just for the party. Okay, it's my 40th. I just want it to be smooth. No drama. I took a deep breath, trying to see it from his side. Trying and failing. Okay, Mark. But I have a problem. You know I can't leave him alone. And everyone I'd trust to watch him, Mom, Dad, Jen, Mike, they're all going to be at your party. Can't you just get a sitter from one of those apps? For a dog with trauma and crippling separation anxiety, to leave him with a complete stranger, absolutely not. That would be cruel. It would set him back months. He sighed. It was a long, weary sound that told me I was being filed under problem. I want to be there, Mark. I really do. So let's figure this out. I switched into solution mode, refusing to let this derail his birthday. Compromise number 1. What if I bring him and he stays on his leash right by my side the entire time? I'll park him on a blanket in a quiet corner of the yard. He won't bother anyone. A pause. I could hear Chloe's faint, sharp voice in the background. No, Mark said, his voice flat. She's not comfortable with him being in the yard. Okay. I thought for a second, pacing my small living room. Lou's head followed me, his brown eyes full of concern. New plan. Mom's car has that fancy feature where you can leave the AC on. What if Mom and I come together, we take turns. One of us is at the party, the other is walking Lou around the neighborhood or sitting with him in the car. He's never alone and he never even sets a paw on your property. We just swap every hour. Another muffled conversation, more waiting. I felt my stomach twisting into a knot. She doesn't want him in the neighborhood, Mark said, sounding apologetic but firm. She's worried he'll get loose and... I don't know. Get loose, Mark. He's attached to me by an invisible bungee cord. He wouldn't run if his life depended on it. The frustration was starting to boil over. This is ridiculous. She's treating him like he's Cujo. Just... please. Don't make this a thing. I'm not. I'm trying to solve it. I took another steadying breath. Okay, final offer. The nuclear option. I can't stay, but I want to see you on your birthday. What if I drive over, leave Lou in my car for literally 10 minutes max while I run in, give you your gift, give you a hug, and then I leave? I'll park at the end of the driveway. She won't even know he's there. This was it. The most reasonable, accommodating offer I could possibly make. It was barely even attending, just a glorified drive-by to show my face and love for my brother on his milestone birthday. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for a full minute. I heard the distinct sound of Mark's front door sliding open and then closing. He must have stepped outside. She saw you pull up last time, he said, his voice low and strained as if he was ashamed of the words coming out of his mouth. She said she doesn't want the dog on the property. Not in the house, not in the yard, not in a car, in the driveway, not even parked on the curb outside. I stopped pacing. The whole world just stopped. I stared at Lou, who had rested his head on my foot, sensing my distress. He looked up at me, his tail giving a weak, uncertain thump-thump against the floor. All my proposed solutions, all my attempts to bend over backward to appease a completely irrational fear were rejected. Not just rejected, but stomped on. They didn't just not want my dog at the party. They didn't want him to exist within a 100-foot radius of their home. They were making me choose. My brother's 40th birthday, a once-in-a-lifetime family event, or my dog. My anxious, loving, traumatized dog who depended on me for everything. And honestly, it wasn't a choice at all. Mark, I said, my voice eerily calm. I need to call you back. I hung up before he could reply. I sank onto the floor and wrapped my arms around Lou, burying my face in his soft fur. He licked the tears off my cheek. There was only one possible answer here. They had created this situation, and there was only one way it could end. My thumb hovered over Mark's name in my contact list. I had to tell him. I had to just say the words. I texted Mark. 2 simple sentences. *, me hey. Since none of my solutions worked for you guys, I won't be able to make it tonight. Have a happy 40th. Asterisk. I put my phone on the coffee table face down. I didn't want to see the 3 dots of him typing. I wanted to pretend it was over. Lou nudged his head under my hand, demanding scratches. I obliged, focusing on the rhythm of it, trying to breathe. My phone buzzed. Once. A second time. Then it didn't stop a furious, vibrating tantrum on the wood. It wasn't Mark. I knew with a sinking certainty who it was. I flipped it over. 5 missed calls from Chloe. 7 new text messages. Asterisk. Chloe. Are you kidding me? Asterisk. Asterisk, Chloe, you are really not coming. Over a DOG asterisk. Asterisk. Chloe Mark is crushed. I hope you're happy. Asterisk. Asterisk. Chloe, you are the most selfish person I have ever met. Asterisk. Asterisk, Chloe, he's your brother Luna. This is his 40th birthday. You only get one of those. Asterisk. Asterisk, Chloe. It's not about the dog, it's about you needing to be the center of attention. You can't stand one day not being about you and your stupid rescue project. Asterisk. Asterisk. Chloe. You are an idiot of a sister. Have a nice night alone with your aggressive animal. Asterisk. My blood ran cold. Asterisk. Luna. Asterisk. She'd used my name like a weapon. Asterisk. Stupid rescue project. Aggressive animal. Asterisk. Each word was a carefully chosen dart. I felt the hot, prickling shame she wanted me to feel. For a second, it worked. My stomach churned. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I was ruining his birthday. Then I looked down at Lou. He was sleeping now, his head in my lap, one paw twitching as he dreamed. He looked so peaceful, so safe. He trusted me. He was my responsibility, not a project. And he wasn't aggressive. He was a victim of whatever horrors had happened before I found him, and now a victim of Chloe's baseless hysteria. My anger, cold and sharp, burned through the shame. I picked up the phone. My thumbs moved with a calm I didn't feel. Asterisk. Me. I offered 3 different compromises so I could be there for Mark. You rejected all of them. This was your choice, not mine. Please don't contact me again tonight. Asterisk. I blocked her number. Then for good measure, I blocked her on every social media platform I could think of. A digital amputation. It felt clean. My phone rang again almost immediately. It was Mom. I knew this call was coming. Honey, her voice was strained. Mark just told me you're not coming. I can't, Mom. They won't let Lou on the property. Or in the car. Or on the street. She sighed. I could hear the party music in the background, a faint thumping bass line. Oh, sweetie. Chloe is... She's telling everyone you refused to come because you weren't allowed to let Lou run free. Of course she was. Spinning the narrative, painting me as the unreasonable one. That's a lie. And you know it. I know, she said quietly. I know. It's just... It's Mark's big day. Your brother is walking around like a thundercloud. He's trying to pretend he's having a good time, but he's just... sad. The guilt tried to claw its way back up my throat, but I swallowed it down. Mark is a grown man who let his wife tell his sister she couldn't even park on their street to drop off a gift. He made his choice. I made mine. "I'll save you a piece of cake," she said, her voice soft with resignation. "Thanks, Mom. I love you." "I love you too." After I hung up, the silence in my apartment felt heavy. The party was in full swing 3 towns over. My entire family, all my friends were there, laughing, eating cake, celebrating my brother, and I was here, on my couch, with my dog. I should have felt miserable. I should have been crying. Instead, I got up, grabbed Lou's leash, and clipped it to his collar. His tail started thumping, a frantic rhythm against the floor. "Come on, buddy," I said, my voice hoarse. "Let's go for a walk." We went to the big empty park by the river. I let him off the leash and he zoomed around a blur of caramel-colored fur against the deepening twilight. He chased a moth, pounced on a leaf, then came sprinting back to me every 30 seconds just to check in to make sure I was still there. Watching him free and happy, I knew I'd made the right call. It was a lonely, painful kind of right, but it was right. This small, anxious creature depended on me to be his advocate, his safe place. I wouldn't break that trust. Not for a party. Not for anyone. The next morning, I woke up with a new kind of clarity. The hurt was still there, a dull ache behind my ribs, but the anger had cooled and hardened into something else, resolve. I made a pot of coffee, sat down at my laptop, and opened a browser window. I found the website for the city's largest no-kill animal shelter, the one that specializes in rehabilitating severely abused and neglected dogs. I clicked the donate button. In the field for the donation amount, I typed in the exact price of that ridiculously expensive bottle of whiskey I'd bought for Mark. Under dedication, I paused. Then I began to type. Asterisk. This donation has been made in honor of Mark's 40th birthday. Asterisk. I kept going. Asterisk. From his sister Luna and her sweet, gentle, and deeply loved rescue dog Lou. May this help another aggressive animal find a home that understands patience, practices compassion, and knows that family never asks you to abandon one of your own. Asterisk. I screenshotted the confirmation page. The digital certificate with their names, and my dedication printed in a cheerful, elegant font. Then I opened the family group chat. It had been silent all morning, a dead space of social awkwardness. I uploaded the screenshot. No caption. No explanation. Just the image. I hit send. Then I put my phone down, picked up Lou's favorite squeaky toy, and tossed it across the room. He pounced on it with a happy yip, his tail wagging furiously. The silence from my family was absolute. And in that quiet, for the first time in days, I felt completely and utterly at peace.
Story teen.
I remember the exact moment the floor fell out from under my life. It was a Tuesday. The coffee tasted like ash in my mouth. Chloe sat across from me at our small kitchen table sunlight, catching the gold flecks in her eyes. She wasn't crying. She wasn't wringing her hands. She was calm, like someone announcing a change in the weather. I slept with someone, she said. The spoon I was stirring my coffee with clattered against the ceramic mug. A sharp, ugly sound in the quiet morning. I waited for the rest. The apology. The gut-wrenching, tear-filled explanation. The mistake. It never came. His name is Julian, she continued, her voice even. It's been going on for a few months. And I don't want it to stop. I couldn't form words. My entire nervous system had just been unplugged. All I could manage was a weak, strangled what? I love you, Ethan. I do, she said, and the words felt like a slap. But you don't fulfill all of my needs. Julian does in other ways. And I think this is the evolution of our marriage. We should have an open relationship. An open relationship. She said it like she was suggesting we try a new restaurant. Like it was a reasonable, logical next step after 7 years of what I thought was a happy monogamous marriage. You cheated on me, I said, the words finally breaking free. You cheated and now you want my permission to keep doing it. It's not cheating if we both agree to the new terms, she said, a hint of impatience in her voice. This is about honesty. I'm being honest with you. The rage came, then hot and blinding. I stood up so fast my chair screeched back against the tile. Get out. Ethan, be reasonable. Get out. She left. And I was left standing in the ruins of my kitchen, my marriage, my entire world. My first call after I managed to stop shaking was to her parents, Carol and Richard. They'd always been more like friends to me. We golfed, we had barbecues. They were my family. I drove over there on autopilot, my mind a blank, static hum. I found them in their sunroom reading the paper like it was any other Tuesday. I spilled the whole story, the words tumbling out of me in a broken, desperate flood. I expected shock. I expected outrage on my behalf. I got pity. Carol put her teacup down with a delicate click. Oh, Ethan, she sighed. We were afraid of this. Afraid of what? Afraid your daughter would blow up our marriage. Richard folded his newspaper and set it aside. Afraid you wouldn't be able to handle it when she finally told you. I stared at him. Handle what? The affair. Her needs, Ethan Carroll said, her voice dripping with a kind of condescending sympathy I was starting to hate. Chloe is a passionate woman. She has a large capacity for love. It's not fair to expect one person to be everything. My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. What the hell are you talking about? She cheated on me. Richard leaned forward, lacing his fingers together. Son, words like cheating are so restrictive. Carol and I came to an understanding years ago. We have our own arrangements. It keeps things fresh. Honest. I felt the air leave my lungs. I was looking at two strangers. These people who I'd shared holidays with, who I'd called mom and dad, were telling me that infidelity was just a healthy hobby. So you're fine with this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You're on her side. There are no sides, Ethan Carroll said, her smile not reaching her eyes. There's just the path forward. Chloe is offering you a chance to evolve with her. To grow. Most men would be thrilled. She's not leaving you, she's just expanding your life together. I felt sick. I was being gaslit in surround sound. They were a team, a united front of warped logic and free love bullshit. They weren't my allies. They were her enablers. I can't do that, I stammered, shaking my head. A marriage is between two people. That's it. That's the deal. That's when Carol's expression hardened. The soft, pitying mask fell away, revealing something cold and sharp underneath. Then maybe the problem isn't the deal, she said, her voice low and cutting. Maybe the problem is that you're simply not enough for her. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Did you ever stop to think why she might need to find fulfillment elsewhere? She pressed on her eyes like chips of ice. Did you ever think that maybe you are inadequate, that you can't give her what a woman like her truly needs, physically? Emotionally? You're asking her to starve just because you can only offer her breadcrumbs. Richard just sat there nodding slowly like his wife was delivering a profound, undeniable truth. This isn't about love, Ethan, she finished the final nail in my coffin. This is about your selfish pride. You'd rather see her unhappy and chained to your limitations than see her fulfilled. You're being selfish. And weak. I couldn't breathe. Inadequate. The word echoed in the sudden ringing silence of the room. It was a poisoned dart, and it had found its mark. I was being called a failure as a man by my wife's mother, and her father was co-signing it. I stood up, my legs trembling. There was nothing left to say. I didn't defend myself. I didn't scream. I just turned and walked out their judgment, following me like a shadow. I drove for an hour, maybe more. I don't know where I went. The streets blurred into a meaningless smear of light and color. I ended up parked in front of my own empty house. Chloe's car was gone. The silence inside was deafening. I was completely, utterly alone. My wife had betrayed me. Her parents had crucified me. The people who were supposed to be my support system had ganged up and torn me to shreds, leaving me with nothing but that one ugly word rattling around in my skull. Asterisk. Inadequate. Asterisk. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I scrolled through my contacts, my vision blurry. Who was left? Who could I possibly turn to? My finger hovered over one name. Mom. I pressed the call button, my heart pounding, a desperate rhythm against my ribs. I just needed to hear a friendly voice. I needed someone, just one person, to be on my side. To tell me I wasn't crazy. To tell me I wasn't the villain in my own tragedy. The phone rang once. Twice. Hello, her voice came through the speaker, warm and familiar. A wave of relief washed over me, so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. I opened my mouth to speak, to pour out the whole nightmare. Mom, I choked out. It's me. I need you. The story I started to tell her came out in jagged pieces, a confused, rambling mess. But she listened. She made all the right noises, shocked, gasps, sympathetic murmurs. For a few precious minutes, I felt the ground firming up beneath my feet. They said what? She asked, her voice tight with what I thought was outrage on my behalf. Her own mother said you were inadequate. Yes. That was the word she used. Can you believe that? I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. It's insane. I'm being gaslit by my entire family. There was a pause. Longer than I expected. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted. It was hesitant. Clinical. Well, Ethan, she started slowly. Let's not be dramatic. Are you sure you're not leaving anything out? Leaving what out? My blood ran cold. I mean, Chloe has always been a very vibrant woman. Lots of energy. What does that have to do with anything, Mom? Are you sure you've been keeping her happy? She asked. And the question landed like a stone in my gut. In all aspects of your marriage, a woman has needs, honey. If she's not getting them met at home, I couldn't speak. The same script. It was the same goddamn script Carol had used. Mom, what are you saying? I whispered, dread coiling in my stomach. I'm just saying that maybe Carol has a point, she said, her voice gaining a defensive edge. Maybe before you throw away your marriage, you should look at your own part in this. If you are physically inadequate for a woman like Chloe, then what does she owe you really? The word hit me for the second time in one day, but this time it shattered me completely. Inadequate. From my own mother. The betrayal was so absolute, so profound, it stole the air from my lungs. You're siding with them, I said, my voice flat dead. I'm not taking sides, I'm being realistic, she snapped. You need to grow up and accept the situation. Don't be so selfish. I hung up. I didn't say another word. I just ended the call and let the phone drop from my numb fingers. I was an island. No, I was less than an island. I was just a man drowning in an endless, empty ocean, My thumb scrolled through my contacts on autopilot. There was one number left. One I hadn't called in 5 years. Dad. We hadn't spoken since he moved out of state after the divorce, our relationship reduced to a polite Christmas card once a year. I had nothing left to lose. I hit dial. He answered on the second ring. Ethan. His voice was gravelly surprised. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I told him everything from Chloe's confession to my mother's final gutting verdict. I laid it all out, a clinical report of my own destruction. I expected a grunt, and I told you so about marriage. Something dismissive. Instead, there was a long silence, and then a dry, humorless chuckle. Inadequate, huh? He said. She used that word. Yeah. Jesus. The hypocrisy is stunning even for her. What are you talking about? Ethan, why do you think we got divorced? He asked, his voice devoid of emotion. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Your mother was sleeping with her boss for the last 3 years of our marriage. When I found out, she told me I should be more open-minded. That I was suffocating her. That I wasn't enough of a man for her. The world tilted on its axis. Everything, her weirdly clinical advice, her defense of Chloe, the time-specific times insulted, all clicked into place with a sickening snap. It wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about her justifying her own past. She cheated on you. Like it was her job, he said. So you can listen to a hypocrite, or you can get your head on straight. First thing tomorrow, you call a lawyer. You hear me. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt a flicker of something other than pain. It was anger. Cold, clear, and sharp as a shard of glass. I hear you, I said. Armed with an hour of brutal, no-nonsense legal advice and my father's quiet support over the phone, I agreed to meet Chloe at our house. I needed to do this one last time, face to face. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, looking bored. She didn't get up when I walked in. Have you come to your senses? She asked, not looking up. I've come to give you one last chance to save this marriage, Chloe, I said, my voice steadier than I thought it would be. You end it with Julian. We go to counseling. We try to fix what you broke. She finally looked at me, a smirk playing on her lips. No. No. The arrangement is not up for negotiation, she said, her voice dropping to a flat, cold monotone. Julian is a part of my life. The only thing to discuss is how you're going to accept that. So this is my final offer to you. You can get on board or you can watch from the sidelines. But it's happening, either way. There it was. The complete absence of love, of respect, of anything. I was just an obstacle to be managed. Okay, I said, nodding slowly. The cold anger inside me solidified into a single hard point of certainty. Then I want a divorce. She laughed. A short, ugly bark. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not giving you a divorce. We're not getting divorced just because you're having a tantrum. She stood up, brushing past me. You'll get over it. As she walked out the door, she paused. Oh, and I'm having the locks changed tomorrow? My lawyer said it's best if you find somewhere else to stay while you cool off. The final showdown came that night. I was at a cheap motel, a stack of legal documents on the bedside table when my phone rang. It was my mother. I just spoke to Chloe, she began. No, hello, just accusation. She told me you're trying to divorce her. After everything she's offered you, after everyone has tried to help you see reason, you're still being this stubborn. What is wrong with you, Ethan? The pressure that had been building inside me for days, the poison of every insult, every betrayal, finally found a release valve. I snapped. What's wrong with me? I laughed, a raw, ragged sound. You want to know what's wrong? I know, Mom. Dad told me everything. The line went dead silent. He told me why you two really split up. I pushed on my voice low and shaking with rage. He told me about your boss. So don't you dare preach to me about being open-minded. Don't you dare call me inadequate to justify your own pathetic history. You don't know what you're talking about, she whispered, her voice thin and panicked. Oh, I think I do, I spat. You're not defending Chloe, you're defending yourself. You just can't stand to look at a man who actually has some self-respect. You know what you are, Mom, you're a cheating whore. And you raised a daughter just like you. I hung up before she could respond, my heart hammering against my ribs. The cruelty of my own words tasted like acid, but underneath it was the clean, sharp taste of truth. A week later, I was living in the spare room of my father's small house 2 states away. It smelled like sawdust and old coffee. We didn't talk much about the past. We didn't need to. He'd just wordlessly hand me a beer when I got home from my temp job, and we'd watch the game in a comfortable silence. My phone was filled with venomous texts from Chloe and my mother, and a dozen missed calls from Carol. I'd read them, then delete them. They were ghosts from another life. My lawyer was preparing for a fight. Chloe was refusing to sign anything, claiming desertion. It was going to be long. It was going to be ugly. But one night, sitting on my dad's worn-out porch, I looked up at the unfamiliar stars and felt something I hadn't felt since that Tuesday morning. I felt solid. The world had been ripped out from under me, and I had been betrayed by the 2 women I should have been able to trust most. My life was a wreck. But it was my wreck. And for the first time, I felt like I was the one holding the hammer. I had my self-respect back. And I wasn't giving it up for anyone ever again.
Story 11.
My sister Erin has always been the sun our family orbits around. We didn't just revolve around her. We were expected to feed her light, making sure she burned brighter than anyone else. She was the golden child, the star, and the rest of us, all 5 of us, were just the supporting cast in the Erin show. So when she got engaged to her equally self-absorbed fiancé Mark, the production went into overdrive. For a year, every family dinner, every phone call, every text in the group chat was about venues, caterers, and the exact shade of blush for the bridesmaid dresses. We all just smiled and nodded. It was easier than fighting the tide. The wedding was set for late August. A perfect drama-free date. Our youngest sister Nadia was graduating high school in June. She was the quiet one, the one who never asked for anything. She'd worked her ass off, got a full-ride scholarship to a great engineering school, and was named valedictorian. We were all incredibly proud. The date for her graduation was announced months in advance, Saturday, June 18th. My brothers, Leo and Sam, my older sister Maya, and I immediately booked flights to come home for it. Then on a Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Erin in the family group chat. Asterisk, asterisk, Erin, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Oh my God, you guys, amazing news. The Vineyard had a last-minute cancellation from a big corporate event, and they offered us the date for a huge discount. We'd be fools to say no. So excited to finally have a date locked in asterisk. Attached was a picture of a new Save the Date card. A tasteful cream-colored card with elegant script. And a new date. Saturday, June 18th. I stared at my phone, the blood draining from my face. A typo. It had to be a typo. I typed back. Instantly. Asterisk, asterisk. Me. Asterisk, 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 Erin. That's Nadia's graduation day. We've all had it on the calendar for months. Asterisk. My brother Leo was right behind me. Asterisk. Asterisk Leo, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Yeah, what the hell? That's not going to work. Asterisk. The 3 little dots next to Erin's name appeared and disappeared for a full minute before her reply came through. Asterisk, asterisk. Erin, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Oh, I know, it's such a bummer about the timing, but it was literally the only date they had available before next year. It's a sign asterisk. My mom chimed in before anyone else could respond. Asterisk, asterisk. Mom, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. This is wonderful news, sweetie. So happy for you. We'll make it work. A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Asterisk. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I looked for Nadia's name in the chat, but she was silent. Of course she was. She never made waves. Asterisk, asterisk. Me, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Mom, it's her valedictorian speech. It's a huge deal for her. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Mom, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. She can get a copy of the diploma later. Erin can't just reschedule her entire wedding. Don't be difficult, Cole. Asterisk. Asterisk. Difficult. Asterisk. That was the word they always used when one of us failed to fall in line behind Erin. The group chat exploded. Maya and Sam backed Leo and me up, but Mom and Dad just doubled down, parroting the same lines about how a wedding was more important, how Nadia would understand how Erin deserved this perfect day she'd always dreamed of. The entire time, Nadia said nothing. I excused myself from work and called Erin directly. She answered on the second ring, her voice sickly sweet. Hey, big brother, isn't it just the most amazing news? No, Erin, it's not. You knew that was Nadia's graduation day. Well, yeah, she said, her tone shifting instantly from sweet to defensive. Mom mentioned it. But it's not my fault the venue opened up. What was I supposed to do? Say no to my dream wedding over a high school graduation? Yes, that's exactly what you were supposed to do. Or at least ask Nadia about it first. Oh, please, she scoffed. It's just walking across the stage in a stupid hat. I did it. You did it. It's not a big deal. My wedding is a times real times milestone. The condescension in her voice made my hand clench around my phone. It's a big deal to times her. Times Erin. She's the valedictorian. She's giving a speech. Good for her, Erin said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She can give her speech and you guys can all watch the video at my reception. I'll even set up a TV. See, compromise. I hung up. There was no reasoning with her. There never was. My next call was to Nadia. She picked up her voice small. Hi, Cole. Hey, kiddo. You okay? A long pause. Yeah. I'm fine. No, you're not. Don't lie to me. I heard her take a shaky breath. It's okay, she whispered, and I could tell she was trying not to cry. You guys should go to the wedding. It's a bigger deal. Erin's right. That broke me. Hearing her echo Erin's selfish, callous words. Hearing the resignation in her voice, the acceptance that she came second. That she times, always times, came second. No, Nadia. It is not a bigger deal. Your day is just as important. I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be honest. Do you want us there? At your graduation? I don't want to cause a fight. Forget about the fight. Do you want us there? Another pause, and then a tiny, broken voice said, yes. Okay, I said, my own voice, thick with emotion. Then we'll be there, I promise. I immediately created a new group chat. Just me, Leo, Sam, and Maya. I told them about my conversation with Erin, and more importantly with Nadia. The replies were instantaneous and unanimous. Asterisk, asterisk. Leo, asterisk, 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 I'm in. Screw the wedding. I'm going to see my sister graduate. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Maya, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Count me in. I'm so sick of this. Nadia deserves to have her family there. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Sam, asterisk, 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 100%. I'll cancel my tux rental tomorrow. Asterisk. A line had been drawn. The four of us made a pact. We texted the main family group chat together. My message was simple. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Just to be clear, Leo, Sam, Maya, and I will be attending Nadia's graduation. We will not be at the wedding. We're sorry to miss it, but we promised Nadia we would be there to support her. Asterisk. The response was nuclear. My phone started blowing up with calls from my mother. I ignored them. Then came the texts, each one more frantic and furious than the last. She called us selfish, ungrateful, cruel. She said we were ruining Erin's life. Erin sent a barrage of her own, full of crying emojis and accusations, painting herself as the victim of a coordinated sibling betrayal. Dad, a man who usually stayed out of it, sent a single stern message times. You are tearing this family apart. Asterisk. We held firm. For 2 days, we weathered the storm, communicating only in our sibling subgroup, checking in on Nadia, who was staying with a friend, to avoid the toxic atmosphere at home. Then on Thursday night, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom sent to the main family group, the one that included everyone. Asterisk, everyone, my house. Sunday at noon. We are going to settle this once and for all. Asterisk. We walked into my parents' house as a unit. Me, Leo, Maya, and Sam. A 4-person wall of solidarity. My mom and Erin were already seated on the living room sofa, positioned like a queen in her chosen princess. My dad stood by the fireplace, his face a mask of strained neutrality. Erin's fiancé, Mark, was perched on the arm of the sofa looking smug. The air was thick enough to choke on. I'm glad you all decided to show up, my mother began, her voice tight with anger. Maybe you can explain why you're so determined to break your sister's heart. Erin produced a perfectly timed sniffle dabbing at a dry eye with a tissue. I just don't understand why you hate me so much, she whispered. Leo scoffed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. Oh, give me a break, Erin. Nobody hates you. We're just sick of the entire universe being forced to revolve around you. Leo, that's enough, my dad warned, his voice low. No, it's not enough, Maya said, stepping forward. As the oldest, her voice carried a different weight. We've never said enough. That's the problem. She looked directly at our parents. This isn't about one day. This is about a lifetime of this. A lifetime of you teaching her that her wants are more important than anyone else's needs. That's not true, my mother snapped. We love all of our children equally. Do you? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Because from where I'm standing, you love one of them and you tolerate the rest of us. You let Erin knowingly maliciously schedule her wedding on the same day as Nadia's graduation. The day she becomes valedictorian. And you defended it. You called Nadia's achievement unimportant. A wedding is a sacred commitment, my mother cried, clutching Erin's hand. A graduation is a party. It was a milestone she earned, Sam shot back, his face red. And you were all willing to let Erin stomp all over it for a discount at a vineyard. Erin finally dropped the victim act. Her face hardened. You're all just jealous, she sneered. You've always been jealous that I'm the one who gets things, that I'm happy. The sheer, unadulterated narcissism of that statement hung in the air, stunning us all into silence for a second. Then Maya spoke again, her voice like ice. She took another step forward, her eyes locked on my parents. Okay. It's time for you to make a choice. My mom looked baffled. A choice? Yes, Maya said. You can have the golden child or you can have the rest of us. But you can't have both anymore. We are done being the supporting cast. We are done being ignored. Either you call Aaron and Mark right now, tell them to move their wedding to any other day, and apologize to Nadia for ever suggesting her day was less important, or the four of us are walking out that door, and we're not coming back. No more holidays. No more phone calls. We'll be done. My mother gasped, looking at Dad for support. Robert, are you hearing this? They're giving us an ultimatum. My dad had been silent, his face getting paler and paler as the confrontation wore on. He looked at Maya, then at me, then Leo and Sam. He saw the same unwavering resolve in all of our eyes. He saw 4 of his children ready to cut him out of their lives forever. The reality of Maya's ultimatum finally crashed down on him. He turned, but his gaze didn't land on my mother. It landed squarely on Aaron. For the first time in my life, I saw my father look at his perfect daughter with pure, unadulterated anger. Is this what you wanted? He asked, his voice shaking with a rage. I'd never heard from him. Aaron blinked, stunned. What, Daddy? They're the ones. Don't you daddy me, he roared, and Aaron physically flinched. Was it worth it, Aaron? A cheaper booking? Was it worth your brothers and your sister walking out of our lives? Was it worth this? He gestured wildly at the shattered remnants of our family in his living room. You did this. You knew the date, and you chose to do this anyway, out of spite, out of selfishness. You've always just taken and taken, and we let you. Robert, my mother shrieked, jumping to her feet. Don't you dare talk to her like that. But he ignored her. He was still locked on Aaron. I have watched you push your siblings aside your entire life, and I never said a word. I thought it was just sibling stuff. But this is cruel. You were going to let your little sister, who has never ever hurt a soul, celebrate the biggest day of her young life completely alone. For what? For this, he looked at Mark, his lip curling in disgust. For a wedding, that's more about the photo ops than anything else. He finally turned to us, his eyes filled with a terrible dawning shame. She's right, he said, his voice cracking as he looked at Maya. We let this happen. My mother started screaming, then a tirade about disrespect and betrayal, all of it aimed at us. She grabbed Aaron, who was now actually crying, and pulled her into a protective hug, glaring at us over her shoulder like we were monsters. We didn't need to see anymore. We just turned and walked out the door, leaving the sound of her shouting behind us. The 4 of us drove to the hotel where we'd put Nadia up. My dad called me before we even got there. I put him on speaker. I'm coming over, he said, his voice thick. Is Nadia there? I need to talk to her. I need to apologize. When he arrived 20 minutes later, he looked like a broken man. He walked right past us and straight to Nadia, who stood nervously by the window. He took both of her hands in his. Nadia, he said, tears welling in his eyes. I am so sorry. I failed you. As a father, I failed you. I was so busy trying to keep the peace that I forgot to do what was right. Your achievement is monumental, and you deserve to be celebrated. I was wrong. And I am so deeply, deeply proud of you. Nadia started crying, and he pulled her into a hug, holding her tight while she sobbed on his shoulder. It was a dam of neglect breaking after 18 years. On June 18th, there were 2 family events. I only know what happened at one of them. At Nadia's graduation, the 6 of us took up an entire row. Me, Leo, Sam, Maya, Dad, and our grandmother, who Dad had called and explained everything to. She'd said, "It's about damn time, Robert," and bought a new dress for the occasion. When Nadia's name was called for valedictorian, we were on our feet, screaming and cheering so loud we embarrassed ourselves and we didn't care one bit. We watched her give her speech poised and brilliant, and I saw my dad wipe tears from his eyes. We didn't check our phones. We didn't look at social media. We didn't know or care if Erin was having her first dance or cutting her cake. Our phones were off. Our world was in that auditorium celebrating the sister we'd almost let get erased. Afterward, we took Nadia to the fanciest restaurant in town, the one she'd always stared at but we could never afford. Dad slapped down his credit card and told her to order whatever she wanted. We spent hours laughing, telling old stories, and toasting to Nadia's future. For the first time, it felt like a real family. Smaller, yes, but stronger. Unburdened. The sun we were orbiting wasn't a demanding burning star anymore. It was a whole constellation of people who chose to show up for each other. And at the center of it, finally getting the light she deserved, was Nadia. Smiling.
Story 12.
I handed my mom the gift bag. It was small, a little heavier than it looked. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a coffee mug that said, "You're not a regular mom, you're a Times Glamma asterisk." Corny, I know, but it was perfect for her. Mark squeezed my hand under the brunch table. I was vibrating with a nervous energy that had nothing to do with the 2 mimosas I'd already downed. Mom pulled out the mug. She smiled a polite, "Oh, this is cute, honey," kind of smile. Then she saw the little white stick tucked inside. The one with the 2 pink lines that had turned my entire world on its axis. Her face crumpled. It was the good kind of crumpling, the one that comes before the happy tears. "Lily, are you..." I nodded my own eyes, getting misty. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom." She launched herself across the table, all but knocking over the basket of croissants, and wrapped me in a hug that smelled like hairspray and excitement. Mark beamed. For about 5 minutes, it was perfect. It was exactly the moment I'd imagined. Then came the hard part. "Mom," I said once we'd all settled back down, "listen, this is really, really important. We are so excited to tell you. But we're only 8 weeks along. We are not telling anyone else until we're past the first trimester." Mark jumped in. "And we really want to be the ones to tell people you know, in our own way, in our own time." I looked her straight in the eye. "So please, this stays between us. No Facebook, no calling your sisters, nothing. Can you promise me?" "Oh, honey, of course," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "My lips are sealed. This is your news." "I get it." I should have known then. The way she said "your news" had an unspoken but it's times, my times grandbaby attached to it. The first crack in the dam appeared 2 days later. My phone buzzed with a text from her. It was a screenshot of a conversation with her best friend Susan. "Susan, any news?" "Mom times. Can't say anything official. But you might want to start knitting some booties." Triple O asterisk. My stomach dropped. I immediately called her. "Mom, what is this? We talked about this." "Oh, Lily, relax. It's just Susan. I had to tell someone times I was bursting. Besides, I didn't really tell her. I was just hinting. It's totally different." It was not totally different. Mark just sighed when I told him. "Well, the secret's out to Susan. Let's just hope your mom can hold it together for everyone else." He was giving her more credit than she deserved. On Friday, my phone rang. Aunt Carol's name flashed on the screen. My mom's older sister. The family gossip hub. I knew before I even answered. "Hi, Aunt Carol." "Lily, honey, I just heard the wonderful news. Your mother told me." "A baby. I'm just so thrilled for you." "When are you due? Do you know what you're having?" My blood ran cold. I mumbled some non-answers, thanked her for her call, and hung up my hand shaking. I texted Mark a single, frantic line times, "Aunt Carol knows." Asterisk. He called me instantly. "Okay. This is not okay." She promised Mark. She looked me in the eye and promised. "I know, babe. I'm going to call her. Right now. We need to shut this down." I listened on speaker as Mark. in his calmest, most diplomatic voice, laid it out for her again. He was firm but kind. He explained how hurt I was, how we felt our trust had been broken, and how this was the last warning. No more people. Period. My mom was a waterfall of apologies. I am so sorry. I just got carried away. Carol called me and I was just so excited it slipped out. It won't happen again. I swear on my life. I'll be a vault. A vault. Right. For a week, there was silence. Blessed, wonderful silence. I started to relax. Maybe she'd finally gotten the message. Maybe the double-barreled talking to from both me and Mark had worked. We started planning how we'd tell my dad and Mark's parents. We bought a little onesie to give them, made a whole plan. We were taking our moment back. Then I woke up on a Saturday morning to 37 text messages. They were all variations of the same thing. Asterisk. Oh my God, Lily, congrats. Saw your mom's post, asterisk. Asterisk. So excited for you guys. Why didn't you tell me asterisk? Asterisk. Grandma to be is so happy. The picture is adorable. Asterisk. My heart hammered against my ribs. I fumbled with my phone, my fingers suddenly clumsy, and opened Facebook. And there it was. It was the first thing on my feed. My mother had tagged me in it. Tagged Mark. Tagged my sister, my dad, about 15 cousins. It was a picture of our ultrasound photo, the one I had sent her privately just for her, plastered next to a selfie of her beaming, holding up the Glamma mug. The caption was a novel. Some things are just too wonderful to keep secret any longer. My beautiful daughter Lily and my amazing son-in-law Mark are giving me the best gift I could ever ask for. I'm going to be a grandma, feeling so blessed, and can't wait to spoil baby Henderson rotten. Get ready for a whole lot of grandma posts from me. Number Grandma Toby, number so excited, number blessed, number baby on the way. It had been posted 14 hours ago. 14 hours. It had 184 likes and 97 comments. Comments from my high school friends. Comments from Mark's coworkers who he wasn't even close to. Comments from distant relatives in another state who we hadn't even thought about telling yet. She had stolen it. She had taken our one single piece of news, the most personal, fragile, monumental news of our lives, and she had made it about her. Her excitement, her new title, her platform. I scrolled through my text, my vision blurring with rage. And there at the very top was a message from her. Sent at 1203 a.m. Asterisk. So excited. Can I post my big news asterisk? She hadn't even waited an hour for a reply she knew she wouldn't get. She'd just asked for performative permission before doing exactly what she wanted to do anyway. Mark came into the living room holding 2 mugs of coffee. He saw the look on my face and put them down. What is it? He asked, his voice soft. I just turned the phone screen towards him. I watched his face shift. From confusion to disbelief to pure, unadulterated fury. He took the phone from my hands. He scrolled. He read the comments. He looked at the timestamp. 14 hours, he said, his voice dangerously low. She let this sit here for 14 hours. I finally found my voice. She robbed us, Mark. He pulled me into a hug, his arms a steel cage of anger. I'm going to call her. No, I said, pulling away. Not you. Me. My phone started buzzing in my hand. It was her. Calling me. Probably to gush about all the wonderful comments she was getting. I hit ignore. A text popped up immediately. Asterisk. Why aren't you answering? Did you see my post? Everyone is so happy, asterisk. couldn't even form words. I just stared at the message, a hot, bitter wave of betrayal washing over me. My thumb started typing a message full of fire and venom. I was about to hit send when another text from her came through. Asterisk. Fine, I took it down. Only a few people even saw it anyway. Don't be so dramatic. Asterisk. Asterisk. Only a few people saw it. Asterisk. The words glowed on the screen, a monument to her delusion. A few people, 184 likes, and 97 comments were not a few people. They were a stadium full of people she had invited to a party I was supposed to be hosting. My thumbs flew across the screen, raw and furious. Before I could second guess myself, I hit send. Asterisk. Call me. Now. Asterisk. My phone rang less than a second later. I jabbed the green icon. What have you done? I didn't even say hello. Lily, for God's sake, I took it down. You don't need to be so hostile. I was just excited. Her voice was high and tight, the one she used when she was pretending to be the wounded party. Excited? You call this excited? You plastered my private medical information all over the internet after Mark begged you to keep your mouth shut. You stole our announcement. Ours, Mark and I, don't get to have that moment now. You took it. Oh, stop being so ridiculous, she snapped, the victim act already cracking. I did not steal anything. I shared my joy. Is a grandmother not allowed to be happy? Is that the new rule? I have to hide my feelings so I don't offend your delicate sensibilities. My delicate sensibilities. Mom, this isn't about your feelings. It's about my pregnancy, my baby, my husband, and me. It's about our explicit request for privacy, which you have stomped all over every single chance you got. First with Susan, then with Aunt Carol, and now this grand finale of disrespect. Disrespect, she shrieked. You want to talk about disrespect? You're a bully, Lily. You've always been a bully. You get one little thing you want, and you hold it over everyone's head. You are denying me the joy of this. This is happening to me, too. I actually laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound that held no humor. This is happening to you. Are you the one who's going to be up all night with a screaming baby? Are you the one whose body is currently being hijacked by a tiny parasite? No. You are not. You are a supporting character in this story, Mom. And you need to learn your role. There was a choke sound on the other end of the line. I can't believe you. You are the most selfish person I have ever known. Good, I said, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous calm. Let me be very clear so that you don't get confused again. I stood up and started pacing, Mark's worried eyes following me. You have proven that you cannot be trusted. You have shown me that your need for attention is more important than my feelings, my privacy, and my trust in you. I'm hanging up, she said, her voice wobbling. I will not be spoken to like this. No, you'll listen, I commanded. And then I'll be done. The line was silent. I took a deep breath. This stops now. The text to your friends, the calls to your sisters, the goddamn Facebook posts. All of it. From this point forward, you don't share anything about me, my husband, or my child with anyone unless you get my explicit permission. Not a hint, not a whisper. Nothing. Do you understand? More silence. I need to hear you say you understand, Mom. This is insane, she whispered. Okay, I said, my patience gone. You're right. This is insane. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Mark was there in an instant, wrapping his arms around me. I heard he said into my hair, "Good for you. I'm so proud of you." I just nodded, burying my face in his chest. But I wasn't done. I pulled away, grabbed my phone, and opened my text with her. I had to put it in writing. I had to make it permanent. Asterisk. Since you seem to have a hard time understanding me on the phone, I'll type it out for you. Your behavior was unacceptable. You have the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old who needs to be the center of attention at all times. But this is not your party. A soon-to-be mother trumps a soon-to-be grandmother every single time. Asterisk, asterisk, I, asterisk, asterisk, am the priority now. My husband is the priority. This baby is the priority. Your feelings and your desperate need for likes on social media are so far down the list they don't even register. If you cannot learn to respect my boundaries, then you will not be a part of this. We will cut contact. This is your one and only warning. The absolute last one. Draw your line in the sand, and I'll draw mine. Asterisk. I sent it. The little delivered receipt felt like the final thud of a gavel. I showed it to Mark. He read the whole thing, his expression grim. He looked up at me and nodded slowly. Okay, he said. The line is drawn. An hour later, my sister Sarah called. Lily, what did you do? She asked, her voice a stressed-out whisper. Mom is hysterical. She called me sobbing, saying you threatened her. I set a boundary, Sarah. One, she has repeatedly proven she's incapable of respecting on her own. I know, and you're right. She was completely out of line with the Facebook post. It was awful. But your text? I mean, did you have to be so harsh? You called her a child. Was I wrong? There was a pause. No, she admitted quietly. But you know how she is. You just poured gasoline on the fire. The fire was already burning my house down. I just put it out with the first thing I could find. I sighed, rubbing my forehead. Look, I know you're in a tough spot. It was the unspoken truth between us. Sarah was still financially tied to our mother. Mom had co-signed on her apartment lease and was still paying her car insurance. Sarah couldn't afford to rock the boat. I could. She's telling everyone you're a major a-hole, Sarah said, her voice laced with the exhaustion of being the family mediator. She's convinced she's the victim here. That you're ungrateful and cruel and trying to take her grandbaby away from her. Let her, I said, and the lack of anger in my own voice surprised me. It was just resignation. Let her think whatever she wants. I don't care anymore. My only concern is protecting my own family. The one Mark and I are building. After we hung up, I sank onto the couch next to Mark. He put his arm around me and I leaned my head on his shoulder. My own mother thinks I'm an asshole, I said softly. She's wrong, he said, kissing the top of my head. You're a mama bear. You just found your roar. He was right. This wasn't just about a stolen announcement or a tacky Facebook post. It was the first battle in a long war I hadn't known I needed to fight. It was a line in the sand. From now on, every decision from who was in the delivery room to whether we posted pictures of our child online would be ours and ours alone. She had wanted to be a Times Glam Ma asterisk. Fine. But I was the mom. And my reign had just begun.